Chapter 436. Bam! A towering mountain turned into dust. The grand immortal demonic light overflowed into the sky. The demonic clouds that covered the sky rolled, and a roar that could shatter mountains and rivers resounded. What? All of them were killed by Kong Li? Ancestor Ying Long's eyes were crimson red while the surrounding space was warping to the extreme. The killing intent that shot through the sky was terrifying to the extreme, and it caused the Dark Hawk King to shiver, while he ceaselessly kowtowed, and reported to Ancestor Ying Long. Ancestor is wise. Not only did Kong Li kill the various demon kings, he even killed all of us envoys on Heaven's Link Ridge. If Kong Li hadn't asked me to come back and pass the message to the three ancestors, I'm afraid I would have died on Heaven's Link Ridge, the Black Hawk King said with a trembling voice. Second brother, don't be angry. The old mother of Mount Wuxian was a young girl. Her true form was the green one of the primordial age. Her cultivation was extremely frightening, and she was definitely an overlord in the North Continent. At that moment, she was consoling Patriarch Ying Long, third sister. This brat Kong Li, not only did he kill my son, King Ying Long, just because he's from the five-colored peacock clan, he even killed all of you and your disciples. Even if this matter is reported to the Western Mystical Mountain, and that Mahamayuri wants to protect us, we'll definitely seek justice from the Gautama Buddha, Patriarch Ying Long said furiously. To be able to kill martial nephew Ying Long, this Kong Li is most likely a grand heavenly immortal. However, his true form is a five-colored peacock. Even if we can kill him, Mahamayuri is extremely protective of his own people. This matter requires further planning, Old Monster G Mountain said solemnly. Big brother, are we just going to let Kong Li off like this? When Patriarch Ying Long lost his beloved son, he wished he could cut Yi Xian into 1,000 pieces. At this moment, when he heard Old Monster Ji Shan's words, it made him even more furious. Second brother, he's just a son. If he's dead, so be it. This is his fate. But you have to know that Mahamayuri is a peak grand heavenly realm expert. He's not someone we can afford to offend. If we really kill Kong Li and incur the wrath of Mahamayuri, won't we suffer a great calamity? Old Monster G Mountain frowned and reprimanded. Yeah, second brother, big brother is right. A mere Kong Li is naturally nothing to us. Even if he's at the Golden Immortal Realm, we're at the second level of the Golden Immortal Realm, while big brother is at the third level of the Golden Immortal Realm. So killing him is extremely easy. However, you have to understand that we can't afford to offend Mahamayuri, and we can't afford to become enemies with him. Old Mother Wu Shan expressed her opinion. She was not as impulsive as Patriarch Ying Long. How could Patriarch Ying Long not understand how terrifying Mahamayuri was? However, his beloved son was killed, and his heart was filled with endless resentment and hatred. How could he remain calm? But, could it be that we are going to let this person go? Ancestor Ying Long said unwillingly. Old Monster G Mountain's eyes darkened as he snorted. Although Kong Li is from the five-colored peacock clan, and Mahamayuri is extremely protective of him, the five-colored peacock clan isn't the only clan in the three realms. At this point, Old Monster G Mountain paused for a moment. The corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile. Don't forget that not only did Kong Li kill the various demon kings, but he also destroyed the entire North Sea Dragon Palace. This is a heinous crime. It's also a slap to the Heavenly Court's face. Looking at Old Monster G Mountain's sneering face, Patriarch Ying Long was slightly stunned. Big brother, you mean? We'll report this to the Western Sacred Mountain first, then tell Venus Tai Bai about Kong Li's crime. I don't believe the Celestial Court will sit by and do nothing. Old Monster G Mountain sneered. That's right. The Western Sacred Mountain has always been benevolent. They will definitely give us an explanation. Moreover, Kong Li destroyed the North Sea Dragon Palace. The Celestial Court will also send people to subdue Kong Li, with the two major forces punishing him together. Even if Mahamayuri wants to protect Kong Li, he won't have a choice, Old Mother Wu Mountain said with certainty. Hearing the two's words, Patriarch Ying Long's spirits were lifted. His originally furious mood was also alleviated. Reporting to the three patriarchs, I don't know if I should say something. The Dark Eagle King turned his eyes and kowtowed to the three patriarchs. Why are you hemming and hawing? If you have something to say it quickly. Patriarch Long frowned. Patriarch, please calm down. Kong Li once asked me to pass a message to the 3 patriarchs. He said that if the 3 patriarchs knew their place, he would not make things difficult for the 3 of you. However, if the 3 patriarchs seek death, he would not mind pulling out your tendons, flaying your skin, and putting you to death by 1,000 cuts. The Dark Eagle King spoke with a trembling voice. However, when he lowered his eyes, there was a sinister look in his eyes. Clearly, he wanted nothing more than to kill Yi Xian. Naturally, he would not let go of such an opportunity to add fuel to the fire. How dare you? Patriarch Long roared furiously, and the world around him exploded. His face was extremely red, while Old Monster Ji Mountain and Old Mother Wu Mountain's expressions turned extremely sinister. Clearly, they were also extremely furious. This brat Kong Li is so arrogant and despotic. If I don't kill him, I will not be able to appease the hatred in my heart. Patriarch Long growled. Big brother, this brat Kong Li has humiliated us. If we don't teach him a lesson, I'm afraid we will be laughed at by the outside world. Why don't we capture him and torture him until the people from the Western Spiritual Mountain and the Celestial Court arrive? This way, we can preserve our dignity. Patriarch Long said hatefully. Old Monster Ji Mountain nodded and said in a cold voice, It's good to teach this brat a lesson. Although we can't kill him, we can still destroy his Tongtian Ridge. Third sister, immediately inform Venus Tai Bai of this matter, and then personally head to the Western Spiritual Mountain. Your second brother, and I will capture Kong Li first. You must go and return quickly, Old Monster Ji Mountain said. Yes, big brother. Old Mother Wu Mountain responded, and immediately rushed to the North Sea Dragon Palace. After Old Mother Wu Mountain left, the following matters became extremely simple. Old Monster Ji Mountain gathered the countless demons. 3 days later, demon clouds covered the sky and majestically headed for the Tongtian Ridge, 33rd layer of the Celestial Court, Bullfighting Palace. Venus Tai Bai bowed to the side and slowly described the destruction of the North Sea Dragon Palace. The Jade Emperor frowned, and his expression became uncertain. You mean to say that the people who destroyed the North Sea Dragon Palace were the 5-colored Peacock clan? The Jade Emperor said in a low voice. Your Majesty, it's absolutely true. Old Mother Wu Mountain said this herself. After she told the old minister about this matter, she immediately headed to the Western Spiritual Mountain. Clearly, she wants the Western Spiritual Mountain to uphold justice for her. Venus Tai Bai said solemnly. Tap, tap, tap. The Jade Emperor's palm knocked on the table, and a worried expression appeared on his face. 1,000 years had passed, but Yi Xian had still not been found. The Celestial Court was even more chaotic. Now that something like this had happened, he felt like he was in a terrible fix. If the person who destroyed the North Sea Dragon Palace was an ordinary Grand Luo Demon King, it would not be difficult for him to invite a Daluo Jinxian to the lower realm. However, Kong Li was from the 5-colored Peacock clan and involved Mahamayuri. This made things very difficult for him. Chapter 437. Just like during the journey to the West Minor Tribulation, the monkey encountered 81 difficulties along the way. Those who had backers were taken away, and those who did not were killed by the monkey. It was the same as what he was experiencing now. Mahamayuri was the most respected existence in the 3 realms. Even though he was the Jade Emperor, he had to consider his strength. If he did not handle this matter well, he would definitely offend Mahamayuri. Unfortunately, the Jade Emperor did not know that Kong Li was Yi Xian. He was not from the 5-colored Peacock clan, and had nothing to do with Mahamayuri. After dozens of breaths, the Jade Emperor woke up from his thoughts, and said in a deep voice, Pass down my order. Let Shun Gongbao work with the Western Spirited Mountain to subdue the demon. You will accompany him. Everything depends on the Western Spirited Mountain's attitude. Yes, Your Majesty. Venus Tai Bai looked helpless. He knew that the Jade Emperor had no choice but to let Shun Gongbao take action on behalf of the Celestial Court with the Celestial Slashing Sword. Some people might ask why Shun Gongbao had to listen to the Jade Emperor's order when he protected Yi Xian, with the celestial slashing sword during the Battle of the Celestial Court. It was a long story. Zhao Gongming and other immortals from the Jie sect were on the investiture of the gods. The Jade Emperor was in charge of the investiture of the gods and could control the Jie sect. Shen Gongbao naturally had to stay in the celestial court. On the surface, the Jade Emperor was the master of the three realms and was in charge of the entire celestial court. Although Shen Gongbao was on the opposite side of the Jade Emperor, he still had to follow the Jade Emperor's orders. Moreover, Shen Gongbao was too shrewd. In the past 1,000 years, he had caused a lot of trouble in the heavenly court. This time he was sent to the mortal world. Not only could he deal with the matter of the North Sea Dragon Palace, but he could also keep the heavenly court quiet for a while. Western Spirited Mountain, Great Thunderclap Temple. The sky was filled with Buddhist light. Bodhisattvas and Buddhas were sitting cross-legged on golden lotuses. 3,000 truths were reciting Mahayana Buddhist scriptures. The vast power of Buddhism permeated the air and made Old Mother Wuxian kneel under the golden lotus. She did not dare to raise her head. Who came to the lower realm to subdue this demon? Duo Bao Rilai put his palms together, and his compassionate Buddhist voice echoed around Spirited Mountain. Unfortunately, none of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the sky responded. Duo Bao Rilai sighed helplessly as he knew that doing such a thing would offend Mahamayuri. Who would be willing to do such a foolish thing? Amit Ba. Duo Bao Rilai chanted. Where is Guanyin? Southern Sea Guanin's expression changed slightly, but she still walked out with the jade bottle in her hands. Buddha. Guanyin of the South Seas bowed. The Great Thunderclap Temple educates all living beings. Kong Li has great supernatural powers, but he has killed too many people. It is unavoidable that the people will be plunged into misery and suffering. Go and bring him back to Spirit Mountain, Duo Bao Rilai said benevolently. As you command, Buddha. Guanyin of the South Sea put her palms together. This demon's body is enshrouded in 5-colored divine light. Its supernatural powers are boundless. I'll lend you this golden alms bowl for now. You should be able to subdue this demon, but don't take his life. The Buddha's golden alms bowl fell, and was caught by Guanyin of the South Sea. Amidst the chanting of sutras, Guanyin of the South Sea and the Old Mother of Mount Wuxian left Spirited Mountain together and headed towards the North Continent. A Paragodania continent, Mahamayuri Temple. Wisdom King. Guanyin of the South Sea is heading to the North Continent with the Buddha's golden alms bowl to subdue demons. Kong Li has joined the Daluo Jingxian. His true form is a descendant of Wisdom King. If he is killed by Guanyin of the South Sea, a bird with feathers that looked like they were made of gold, was speaking on the shoulder of a young man. The young man was handsome and wore a purple Taoist robe. Although he did not release any aura, it was enough to make one's soul tremble. It was as if a single look from this young man could destroy one's soul. Kong Xian. He was the first 5-colored peacock at the beginning of the world. He was also known as an ancient great supernatural power, an existence that was revered as an ancestor. During the Great God Investiture Tribulation, he joined Western Buddhism and was revered as Mahamayuri by the three realms. At the beginning of the world, all living beings were born. The 5-colored peacock was blessed by the heavens and was born by the heavens and earth. There are very few of them in the three realms. If anyone dares to harm a member of my race, they are going against me, Kong Xian said calmly, but his voice was cold and emotionless. It gave off a feeling that he was not to be disobeyed. Mahamayuri, you? The Golden Sparrow probed. Ever since the Great God Investiture Tribulation, I have rarely ventured out. It seems like the three realms have forgotten about my existence. Let me see if anyone in the three realms dares to bully my peacock race. The 5-colored divine light whizzed out, and the surrounding world was distorted. When Kong Xian took a step forward, it was as if he had torn apart the endless space and time, and he suddenly disappeared from the temple. Everyone was on the move, and the three realms were in an uproar. Be it the great demon Tong Tian, the king of hell, the 33rd heaven celestial court, or the great thunder of the Western Spirit Mountain, almost everyone's attention was focused on the North Continent. Kong Li's name was known throughout the three realms. A 5-colored peacock in Daluo Jingxian. This was no small matter in the three realms. Moreover, The three realms knew that Mahamayuri was extremely protective of his descendants. How could he allow others to harm his descendants? The North Continent was in chaos. Countless fiendish demons gathered at the Tongtian Ridge. Under the leadership of Old Monster G Mountain and Patriarch Long, they directly sealed off the Tongtian Ridge. The fiendish demons' furious roars shook the heavens. Tongtian Ridge, 9 Demon Cave. The 10 demon monarchs were restless. Yi Xian sat high up in the main seat. However, he maintained a smile on his face and did not show any signs of unease. "Hey, Kongli, get out here and accept your death." The furious roars of the countless fiendish demons reverberated in the outside world, and the 10 demon monarchs could hear them. This made the demon monarchs' expressions change as they all looked at Yi Xian. "Big brother, that Old Monster G Mountain and Patriarch Long are here. What should we do?" White Deer King asked with a trembling voice. Unfortunately, Yi Xian did not answer White Deer King's question. Instead, under the shocked gazes of the demon monarchs, Yi Xian stood up from the white bone throne and slowly walked out of the 9 demon cave. "Quick, follow Big Brother." The sky-swallowing toad did not dare to delay. He immediately called for everyone to stand up and chase after Yi Xian. Above the heavens, in the void, Old Monster G Mountain and Patriarch Long stood side by side. Countless fiendish demons followed behind them. The terrifying demonic light covered thousands of miles. When their eyes opened and closed, the world around them was distorted to the extreme. The power of the Tongtian Great Demon was undoubtedly displayed. Buzz! The universe reversed and the void appeared. Yi Xian, dressed in black, suddenly appeared in the heavens. When he saw the 2 grand Luo demon monarchs in front of him, a strange and cruel smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Kongli, surrender without a fight. Otherwise, don't blame this ancestor for beating you to death." Patriarch Long roared ferociously as he looked at Yi Xian, as if he wanted to devour him. "Kongli, you killed our disciples and granddisciples. Shouldn't you give us an explanation today?" Old Monster G Mountain said sinisterly. Unfortunately, Yi Xian did not respond to the 2 grand Luo demon monarchs' questions. At this moment, the 10 demon monarchs arrived behind Yi Xian. However, when they saw Old Monster G Mountain and Patriarch Long, the 10 demon monarchs' expressions changed slightly. Their eyes were extremely solemn. Chapter 438. Old Monster G Mountain, Patriarch Long, and Old Mother Wuxian were the 3 grand Luo demon kings of the North Continent. They could not be compared to Blood God King and King Long. Old Monster G Mountain was at the 3rd firmament of Grand Luo, while Patriarch Long and Old Mother Wuxian were at the 2nd firmament of Grand Luo. Now that the 2 grand Luo demon kings were here, how could the sky-devouring toad and the others not feel depressed? Old Monster G Mountain? Patriarch Long? Just as the 10 grand Luo demon kings were feeling uneasy, Yi Xian frowned slightly and looked around. Then, he looked at Old Monster G Mountain and Old Mother Wuxian again and said, "Where is Old Mother Wuxian?" As Yi Xian's voice fell, everyone was stunned. They did not know what Yi Xian meant. My 3rd sister has already headed to the Spirited Mountain in the west. I'm afraid the people from the Celestial Court and the Spirited Mountain are rushing over here right now. If you know your place, then surrender. If you dare to resist, then don't blame me for killing you right here." Patriarch Long sneered. "Spirit Mountain's Celestial Court?" Yi Xian frowned slightly, and a solemn look appeared in his eyes. It was also at this moment that he suddenly realized something, and this made an extremely sinister killing intent appear in his eyes. According to Yi Xian's plan, the 3 grand Luo demon kings should have come together. He could naturally kill them in one fell swoop and devour their cultivation to increase his cultivation again. However, he had forgotten that he had transformed into the 5-colored peacock, which made the 3 grand Luo demon kings extremely wary. They did not dare to kill him directly, but instead went to invite the Spirit Mountain's Celestial Court. This could be said to be his biggest miscalculation. Yi Xian had endured in the North Continent for so long in order to break into the Daluo Jingxian. At this moment, his Daluo Golden Core had just reached the initial success stage. If the Spirit Mountain's Celestial Court came, his identity would be exposed faster. A sense of urgency appeared in Yi Xian's heart. This made Yi Xian's eyes turn sinister. He looked at the old monster of Ji Mountain, as though he was looking at dead people. Reverend Yu Ding, King Shueshen, King Yinglong, and hundreds of all-heaven demon kings. These were the 4 Daluo Jingxian, who had allowed Yi Xian to cultivate the Daluo Golden Pill to small success. And if he wanted to complete the Daluo Jingxian Golden Core, he would have to use the Tribulation Transcender technique to devour 9 Daluo Jingxian. At that time, he would also be able to step into the realm of Daluo Jingxian. But now he had just completed 4 Daluo Jingxian, and he still needed 5 more. According to Yi Xian's original plan, after devouring the old monster of Ji Mountain and the other 2, he would not be far from stepping into the realm of Daluo Jingxian. Then, he would lead the Tongtian mountain range to sweep across the North Continent and kill hundreds of millions of demons, which would be enough for him to step into the realm of Daluo Jingxian. However, the arrival of the Spirit Mountain's celestial court had somewhat disrupted his plan. If these Daluo Jingxian attacked him together, even if he cultivated the Daluo immortal body, he would not be able to kill them. This would also delay the time he needed to step into the realm of Daluo Jingxian. Die! Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and suddenly made a decision in his heart. This also made him attack violently, and he attacked the old monster of Ji Mountain and the other 2. Yi Xian attacked without giving the old monster of Ji Mountain and the other 2 any time to react. However, when they saw that Yi Xian did not use any great demonic arts, and instead attacked them with just his physical body, they both had looks of disdain on their faces. To the old monster of Ji Mountain and the other 2, if Yi Xian had used his innate ability, the 5-colored divine light, they might have been somewhat apprehensive. However, Yi Xian was simply courting death by fighting them with just his physical body. Patriarch Yinglong's true form was that of a primordial winged dragon and could be considered extremely powerful. Meanwhile, the old monster of Ji Mountain was even more extraordinary. His true form was that of a primordial divine mountain and could be considered indestructible. How could the 2 of them take Yi Xian's attack seriously? You're courting death. Roar! Patriarch Yinglong bellowed as his body wildly expanded. His terrifying dragon claws tore through the heavens and earth, shattering the void for millions of li as they came crashing down on Yi Xian. Little peacock, I'll suppress you, the old monster of Ji Mountain said coldly. When he raised his palm, the laws of heaven and earth were in chaos. The Tongtian's demonic light made his body shine brightly. When his palm struck down on Yi Xian, the entire world shook violently. Facing the 2 Grand Luo Demon King's fierce attacks, Yi Xian's lips curled up in contempt. Under the countless shocked gazes of the countless demons, Yi Xian did not dodge and directly closed in on the 2 Grand Luo Demon Kings. Bang! Bang! Like an ancient divine mountain crashing to the ground, 2 earth-shattering booms rang out. The attacks of the 2 Grand Luo Demon Kings landed on Yi Xian's chest, but something extremely strange happened at that moment. The Tongtian moved the ground, and the demonic light covered the sky. Yi Xian's body did not move at all. He looked at the old monster of Ji Mountain and the other Grand Luo Demon Kings with contempt, and suddenly slapped down on their cheeks. Bang! Bang! The mountains and rivers shattered, and the void exploded. 2 mouthfuls of demon blood spurted out from the mouths of old monster Ji Shan and Patriarch Yinglong. Like a kite with its string cut, they shot backward and smashed into a towering mountain in the distance. Silence! Silence, a deathly silence. The countless demons trembled in fear while the sky-devouring toad and the others were flabbergasted, not daring to believe what they had just seen. It was too frightening, too frightening. No one had imagined that Yi Xian's thin and frail body would conceal such terrifying strength. The origin immortal body was extremely powerful, and this was not just a saying. Even if Yi Xian did not use his cultivation and relied solely on his origin immortal body, he did not fear the 2 Grand Luo Demon Kings. Rumble! Before the demons could react, old monster of Ji Mountain and the other Grand Luo Demon Kings, who had been slapped into the ground by Yi Xian, burst out of the ground. Their half-sunken heads rapidly recovered as they roared in anger. The 2 Grand Luo Demon Kings howled over, but this time, they did not attack Yi Xian. Instead, they looked at Yi Xian in horror, great fear in their eyes. Others might have only been shocked by that strike, but as the two of them, they had truly felt the terror of Yi Xian's physical body. A single strike, just a single strike, had almost shattered the bodies of the two of them. If it wasn't for the fact that both of them were great immortal demon kings, and had secret techniques to heal their injuries, Yi Xian's strike from before would have heavily injured them. How can his physical body be so strong? Patriarch Ying Long's face was twisted, and his voice trembled. What technique does he cultivate? Old monster of Ji Mountain muttered, trembling. If not for the dense Yao light around Yi Xian, he would have believed him to be a member of the shaman race. Moreover, old monster of Ji Mountain was absolutely certain that even the bodies of ordinary shamans were far inferior to Yi Xian's. Perhaps only the bodies of grand shamans could contend against Yi Xian. Brother, there's something strange about this Kong Li. Let's retreat for now, and wait for the people from the Celestial Court and Spiritual Mountain to come. Then we'll capture him together. Old monster of Ji Mountain was already thinking of retreating. It was clear that Yi Xian's origin immortal body was too terrifying, making him feel an even greater threat. How could old monster of Ji Mountain possibly fight to the death with Yi Xian if he was not completely confident? Patriarch Ying Long gravely nodded. Although he wanted nothing more than to kill Yi Xian, he only needed to trap the Tongtian Ridge and wait for the people from the Celestial Court and Spiritual Mountain to come. Only then would he be able to suppress Yi Xian without fail. The two grand immortal Yao Kings withdrew their auras and called for the countless monsters to leave. They clearly had no intention of fighting to the death with Yi Xian. Want to leave? Do you think you can leave? Suddenly, Yi Xian's cold voice sounded out from all directions. When he took a step forward, he suddenly blocked the path of the two great immortal demon kings. His gaze towards the two of them was even cruel and cold. What kind of joke was this? How could Yi Xian let these two leave? Originally, Spiritual Mountain and the Celestial Court were on their way here. An old mother of Wu Mountain had yet to appear. If the five Daluo Jingxian gathered here and attacked him together, Yi Xian did not want to see this result. Yi Xian's plan was very simple. Before the people from Spiritual Mountain and the Celestial Court arrived, he would first kill these two and use the Tribulation Transcender technique to devour their cultivation. This was the most correct method. Chapter 439. Oh! Old monster Ji Mountain and old monster Ying Long were clearly shocked when Yi Xian blocked their path. Their flushed faces turned even more ashen. The two of them retreated not because they were afraid of Yi Xian, but because they did not want to fight to the death with him. However, Yi Xian did not want to give up after gaining an advantage. This caused the demonic aura around them to fluctuate violently. Kong Li, don't think that we are afraid of you just because you have a strong physical body. Patriarch Ying Long growled. His eyes gradually turned crimson red. He was clearly enraged. Kong Li, let's not beat around the bush. If you were not of the five-colored peacock race, I would have killed you long ago. Would I have allowed you to live until now? Rumble. Towering demonic light soared into the sky, stirring up the winds and clouds in the world, and shattering the void for millions of kilometers. When old monster Ji Shan revealed his cultivation at the third heavenly layer of the grand heavenly realm, the demons screamed loudly. The 10 demon kings retreated repeatedly with fear in their eyes. The third firmament of grand heavenly realm was the peak of the grand heavenly realm. It was not something a first or second firmament of grand heavenly realm could compare to. Old monster Ji Mountain did not dare to say that he was invincible among the great demons of the North Continent, but he was definitely one of the top 10 figures. When old monster Ji Mountain revealed his terrifying cultivation, the power that could destroy mountains and rivers was extremely terrifying. Countless demons looked at each other in shock, their eyes filled with great fear. Pretentious, Yi Xian strolled through the sky, the demonic light around his body strange and sinister. With every step he took, the space cracked like a spider web, and an extremely strange and unfathomable aura lingered around him. Die! Rumble! A demonic light pierced through the sky, and with a raise of his hand to pluck the stars, a large hole was opened in the sky. A meteor that was 1,000,000 kilometers long was pulled over by Yi Xian. As Yi Xian blasted out with his palm, the meteor that was 1,000,000 kilometers long descended towards Old Monster G Mountain, with the power to destroy mountains and rivers. However, this was not the end. Something even more terrifying happened. Yi Xian waved his hand, and his palm glowed. It was the demonic aura of the Tongtian. The Kuei water river of the Tongtian Ridge swept through the sky, its dark waters covering the sky. The terrifying scene was indescribable. Kill! A simple word came out of Yi Xian's mouth, and it caused the world to shake violently. The Kuei water river of the Kuei water river transformed into a dragon of heaven and earth, carrying with it the power to destroy all things as it rushed towards Old Monster G Mountain and Old Monster G Mountain. The million-mile meteorite rumbled, and the Kuei water river of the Kuei water river trembled. Plucking the stars and covering the mountains and rivers with one's hand was a great technique of heaven and earth. This was an unparalleled great technique. The technique and Tao that Yi Xian displayed at this moment was unimaginably terrifying. Damn it! Old Monster G Mountain's eyes were crimson red, and the demonic aura around him burned fiercely. He unleashed one demonic technique after another. Cold sweat appeared on Patriarch Yinglong's forehead as he unleashed all sorts of demonic techniques. The two of them unleashed their supreme demonic techniques, blasting out the terrifying Tongtian aura toward Yi Xian's two great techniques. Rumble! The world was destroyed, the mountains and rivers were shattered, and the stars were reduced to dust. The Kuei water river of the Kuei water river of the Kuei water river rolled back, with the three of them as the epicenter. The terrifying shockwaves that shot out caused countless demons to turn into a bloody mist. All sorts of terrified screams could be heard. The heavens collapsed and the earth caved in, and the universe was unclear. The 10 great demon kings retreated 100,000 miles, and countless demons fled for their lives. However, the three streams of light collided with each other in the mist of dust, and the demonic aura that shot out shook the heavens and cracked the earth. A battle between grand immortals like them was not something that they could participate in. No one was able to discern the outcome of this battle clearly. However, Heavenspan Ridge had gradually become extremely damaged. The mountains were collapsing, the ground was sinking, and even the sky had cracked apart to the extreme. If it wasn't for the laws of the Heaven Tao circulating the three dimensions, then merely this battle between the three of them would have definitely shattered this expanse of the heavens and the earth. The sun rose and the moon set, and the stars moved. This battle was earth-shattering, and demonic blood splattered across the sky from time to time. When the sun rose on the fourth day, two broken figures fell from the sky amidst a domineering roar, crushing the mountains and rivers. Yi Xian stood tall and domineering. The demonic aura of the Tongtian Ridge of the Kuei water river revolved around him, and his feet glowed as he stepped on the two men's chests, falling towards the earth like a falling meteor. Bang! The ground caved in for millions of miles, and extremely terrifying ravines spread out in all directions. The two old monsters of G Mountain were badly mutilated, and half of their heads were stepped on by Yi Xian. Their appearances were extremely miserable. Such a scene left the 10 great demon kings speechless, and countless demons watched in a daze. This scene was too unbelievable, and they did not dare to believe it. If Yi Xian could defeat Ancestor Yinglong, perhaps no one would be surprised. However, Old Monster Ji Shan was at the third heaven of Grand Luo, and Yi Xian was fighting against two people at the same time. How could the two of them be defeated by him, and so miserably at that? No one could understand this reason, just like how Old Monster Ji Shan and Old Monster Ji Shan were feeling right now. The two of them had already suffered heavy injuries from Yi Xian's attacks, and even their thoughts had turned sluggish. They simply couldn't accept this fact. However, the pain from their bodies made them understand that the two of them had joined forces to fight against the enemy, but the result was a crushing defeat at Yi Xian's hands. Bang! 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 While everyone was in a daze, an extremely terrifying scene appeared. Yi Xian was cold and merciless. His two-fist lights were like the stars in the universe, as they swung around with unparalleled might. With each punch, the two great Luo demon kings were blasted into a bloody mess by him. Kong! Stop! Spare! Spare us. Two extremely weak voices sounded. The Grand Luo Demon Kings were indeed worthy of being Grand Luo Demon Kings. Although they were seriously injured by Yi Xian, they were still hanging on by a breath, and did not die from the destruction of their bodies. Unfortunately, Yi Xian did not have the slightest bit of mercy in the face of their weak begging for mercy. This also made him smile sinisterly. He quickly formed the Tribulation Transcender technique with both hands, and strange black runes spread out. The Tribulation Transcender technique was too terrifying and cruel. When this cruel forbidden technique was used on the two Grand Luo Demon Kings, it directly turned their bodies into wisps of blood-colored gas, and even their primordial spirits were imprisoned. Tribulation! Yi Xian roared. The two Grand Luo Demon Kings turned into dust, but two blood-colored balls appeared, and the two Grand Luo Demon Kings wailed in pain. What evil technique is this? Kill me. Tens of thousands of ants gnawing at their hearts and cutting them into pieces. This kind of pain that penetrated deep into their primordial spirits was too terrifying, and it also made the primordial spirits of old monster Ji Shan and Patriarch Ing Long howl miserably. The sounds of begging, cursing, and cursing could be heard incessantly. When this scene appeared in the eyes of the 10 Grand Luo Demon Kings and the countless demons, everyone's bodies trembled. They looked at Yi Xian with extreme fear in their eyes. Chapter 440. Unfortunately, Yi Xian didn't feel the slightest bit of reverence from the crowd. He dragged the two blood-colored balls with one hand and disappeared from the eyes of the demons with a single step. However, his gloomy and cold voice reverberated in all directions. Guard the Tongtian Ridge well. When the people from the Western Sacred Mountain and the Celestial Court appear, I will deal with them myself. Yes, big brother. The 10 Demon Kings suddenly came to their senses and bowed towards Yi Xian's departing figure. The endless demons of the Tongtian Ridge roared in excitement as they witnessed Yi Xian's terrifying cultivation. It was as if they had been given a cardiac stimulant. Half a year wasn't too long or too short, but to Yi Xian, this half a year was extremely important. The cultivation of the two Demon Kings had been devoured by Yi Xian, and the endless demons led by the two Demon Kings had fled in all directions. This allowed the Tongtian Ridge to welcome a rare period of peace. Inside the 9 Demon Cave, Yi Xian sat cross-legged. The immortal light around him was obscure and obscure. The golden core in his sea of consciousness hummed and rotated. It was one size larger than before. Yi Xian was not in a hurry to exit seclusion. Instead, he constantly stabilized his cultivation. Including the old monster of Mount Ji and Patriarch Yinglong, Yi Xian had devoured the cultivation of 6 grand heavenly immortals. According to his estimation, he only needed to devour 3 more Daluo Jingxian before he could break through to the Daluo Jingxian realm. The arrival of the Celestial Court and Sacred Mountain made Yi Xian feel the urgency of time. However, Yi Xian also knew that this was an opportunity. The Western Celestial Court definitely had 2 grand heavenly immortals, as well as the old mother of Mount Wu who had yet to appear. This was 3 grand heavenly immortals, enough for him to reach greater mastery of the 9 Revolutions grand heavenly immortal technique. As long as he stepped into Daluo Jingxian, no one in this world could threaten him, as long as the sages did not appear. At that time, Yi Xian didn't care about whether his identity would be exposed or not. It would also be when he stepped into the Great Luo Golden Immortal Realm, and also when he, Yi Xian, would settle the grudges of the past. At the same time, the old mother of Mount Wu and Guanyin of the South Sea arrived above the Tongtian Ridge on a cloud. It was also at this time that Shen Gongbao and Venus Taibai arrived together, followed by 100,000 celestial soldiers. Unfortunately, Shen Gongbao was a member of the Jia Order, and he was ordered by the Tongtian to protect Yi Xian. Naturally, he was not on the same side as Guanyin of the South Sea. When the two met, they did not even greet each other. As the representative of the Celestial Court, Venus Taibai naturally had to greet Guanyin of the South Sea. Greetings, Guanyin. Venus Taibai made a Taoist bow. Venus, there's no need to be so courteous. Guanyin of the South Sea put her palms together. Suddenly, Shen Gongbao snorted and sneered. Taoist Sihong, you left the Chan order and joined the Buddhist order. But you stood on the side of the Chan order in the Battle of the Celestial Court. You did not take the Jia order seriously. We have yet to settle this score with you. Amitabha, Guanyin of the South Sea chanted. When she saw the celestial ending sword behind Shen Gongbao, her expression changed slightly, but she did not say anything. Clearly, she was wary of Shen Gongbao's identity. Although Shen Gongbao was only at the second heaven of Daluo, the celestial ending sword was one of the 4 celestial slaying swords. It was also known as the number 1 killing weapon in the 3 realms. With the power of the celestial ending sword, Shen Gongbao feared no one at the 3rd heaven of Daluo. Even if he faced a 4th heaven of Daluo, he would be invincible. In the Battle of the Celestial Court, he faced the Jade Emperor alone. This was the power of the celestial ending sword. There is no need to talk about the Battle of Orthodoxies. If you are jealous of what happened in the past, you can subdue this demon, and then we can have a showdown. Guanyin of the South Sea spoke calmly, and the Buddha's golden alms bowl appeared. This made Shen Gongbao slightly stunned, and then he sneered. Buddha's golden alms bowl? It seems that old man Duobao has sacrificed a lot. He is afraid that you can't subdue this demon, and even lent you such a spiritual treasure. It seems that you think that with this treasure in hand, you can defeat my celestial ending sword? Please calm down, great immortals. The celestial court of Spirited Mountain is one family. This time, it is more important to subdue this demon. Don't hurt the harmony. Venus Taibai smiled flatteringly, and hurriedly tried to smooth things over. Humph. Shen Gongbao snorted coldly, and did not give Venus Taibai any face at all. He said in a mocking voice, I just want to see how powerful Kong Li is in the mortal world, but I will not attack him. You should know that Kong Li is a 5-colored peacock, and has a deep relationship with Mahamayuri. Although the Jia order is not afraid of Mahamayuri, there is no need to offend him. As Shen Gongbao's words fell, Venus Taibai smiled bitterly, and Guanyin of the South Sea's face turned pale. She looked at Shen Gongbao with a sinister look. How could Guanyin of the South Sea not know that this matter would offend Mahamayuri? She really did not want to care about this mess, but she had no choice since Buddha asked her to come here personally. Now, Guanyin of the South Sea only wanted to capture Kong Li, and not kill him. She wanted to bring him back to Spirited Mountain of the West for Buddha to deal with. This was the final result. No, this. When Guanyin of the South Sea and Shen Gongbao were arguing, Old Mother Wu Mountain's face was slightly pale. She overlooked the entire Tongtian Ridge in the void, and her voice was trembling. Qing Wan, what happened? Qing Wan was the real name of Old Mother Wu Mountain. She was at the 2nd heaven of Grand Luo, and had been good friends with Guanyin of the South Sea for many years. Sensing that something was wrong with Old Mother Wu Mountain's tone, Guanyin of the South Sea asked, Sister Guanyin, you don't know this, but when I headed to Spirited Mountain of the West, Big Brother and Second Brother had already arrived at the Tongtian Ridge. If I'm not wrong, they should have already engaged in a great battle with Kong Li. But now, the Tongtian Ridge is so peaceful, and there's no sign of my Big Brother and Second Brother. This situation is way too strange. Old Mother Wu Mountain said solemnly, and a sense of uneasiness rose in her heart. Hearing Old Mother Wu Mountain's words, Guanyin of the South Sea was stunned, and a look of doubt appeared in her eyes. That's right. Even though Old Master Ing Long and Old Monster Ji Mountain were great demons of the lower world, they were not nameless figures in the 3 realms. They were demon kings of the Grand Luo realm, and even gods and Buddhas had to give them some face. But why were they nowhere to be seen? Of course, Guanyin of the South Sea naturally did not know that the 2 demon kings of the Grand Luo realm had died long ago, and that their cultivation had been devoured by Yi Xian. Sister Qing Wan, there's no need to worry. I came with the Buddha's golden alms bowl. No matter how powerful Kong Li's 5-colored divine light is, it's definitely no match for the Buddha's golden alms bowl. Guanyin of the South Sea consoled her. Sister Guanyin, please help me subdue Kong Li. Old Mother Wu Mountain suppressed her pounding heart, and bowed to Guanyin of the South Sea. Guanyin of the South Sea smiled and nodded, not taking Kong Li seriously. After all, she was at the 3rd heaven of Grand Luo, and she had even brought the Buddha's golden alms bowl with her. she would definitely be able to subdue this demon. Amipa, Guanyin of the South Sea chanted loudly, and Buddhist light filled the sky. The Buddha's golden alms bowl swelled in the wind, and in an instant, it covered thousands of miles of heaven and earth, and its vast Buddhist majesty reverberated across thousands of miles. Chapter 441. Roar. The demons howled, their baleful auras soaring to the heavens. There were countless demons in heaven-span mountain range, and they roared towards the heavens. What they hated the most was the light of Buddhism. This golden light of Buddhism seemed peaceful, but it was the thing they hated the most. Since ancient times, Buddha and demons could not coexist. They could be said to be enemies because the power of Buddha was extremely effective against demons. They were also the ones who persecuted demons the most. For example, Buddhists could suppress demons when they were both in the zenith heaven realm. If it was a battle to the death, demons would definitely not be a match for the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of Spirited Mountain. This was also the reason why the demons in the Earth Immortal world were so afraid of Spirited Mountain of the West. Whoosh! The 10 great demon kings soared into the sky and directly appeared in the sky. They looked at Guanyin of the South Sea and the others without much fear. Clearly, Yi Xian's killing of the 2 great demon kings had given them a lot of confidence. You are all demon kings of the lower world. It would be a good thing if you cultivated diligently and achieved the immortal path. But why did you have to help King Zhou commit crimes and commit atrocities? Guanyin of the South Sea said mercifully. She did not take the 10 great demon kings seriously at all. Even if she did not have the golden alms bowl, it would be easy for her to kill the 10 great demon kings with her 3rd heaven of zenith heaven cultivation. If the 10 great demon kings had faced Guanyin of the South Sea in the past, they would have turned around and fled without a word. But now things were different. They had Kong Li, a towering mountain, behind them. They were not afraid of Guanyin of the South Sea. Guanyin, cut the crap. I advise you to go back to where you came from. Demons have been killing each other in the North Continent for thousands of years. This matter has nothing to do with Spirited Mountain of the West, the sky-swallowing toad said in a low muffled voice. Its tone was extremely disdainful, and did not give Guanyin of the South Sea any face. Oomph! Venus Taibai snorted and said, You demons of the lower world actually dared to destroy the North Sea Dragon Palace. This is a crime against the heavens. Get Kong Li out quickly. Otherwise, don't blame us for killing everyone in the Tongtian Ridge. Bah! King Qingqiu laughed and said, Venus Taibai, an idiot who hasn't even reached the all-heaven stage, dares to be presumptuous in the Tongtian Ridge. If it weren't for Guanyin of the South Sea, you wouldn't have been able to defeat the 100,000 heavenly soldiers behind you. You, how dare you? Faced with King Qingqiu's taunts, Venus Taibai's face flushed red. He wanted to refute, but King Qingqiu was telling the truth. This made him feel extremely ashamed, but he couldn't refute. Insolent evildoer! How dare you be so impudent before the exalted immortals of the celestial court? Guanyin of the South Sea's face turned cold. She turned the jade bottle upside down, and a terrifying suction force acted on King Qingqiu. It was clear that she wanted to suck him into the bottle and suppress him. Taoist Ci Hang, you're so capable. How dare you be presumptuous in the Tongtian Ridge? A demonic light rose from the Tongtian Ridge. Before Guanyin of the South Sea could attack King Qingqiu, a majestic figure stepped out of the sky, causing the world to tremble violently. It was immeasurable and infinite. This demonic light was too dazzling and surging, causing the Buddhist light in the sky to vanish like smoke. The light that reached the heavens swept through the firmament for thousands of miles. It was as if he was the only one in the world, and all living things had to kneel at his feet. Yi Xian was dressed in black, and his jet-black hair hung behind his head. The demonic wind of heaven and earth hung upside down in the sky, causing his hair to flutter in the wind. The 5-colored divine light behind him shook the heavens and earth, and its terrifying might was simply indescribable. Welcome back, big brother. The 10 great demon kings knelt in the void and kowtowed 3 times to Yi Xian. Then, they quickly stood on either side of Yi Xian, looking at Guanyin of the South Sea with a mocking gaze. You're Kong Li? Yi Xian's appearance caused Guanyin of the South Sea's expression to change slightly. This was because Yi Xian gave her a great sense of pressure. Furthermore, for some reason, when Guanyin of the South Sea looked at Yi Xian's unfamiliar face, she felt a faint sense of familiarity. It was not that Guanyin of the South Sea had seen through Yi Xian's true identity, but she felt like she had seen Yi Xian's aura and gaze somewhere before. Even if a person had the Tongtian Great Technique, there was no way to hide the things hidden in one's bones. Yi Xian had used a forbidden technique to change his appearance into Yi Xian, but his gaze and the hidden arrogance in his bones could not be concealed. This was also why Guanyin of the South Sea felt familiar with Yi Xian. Have I seen you somewhere before? Guanyin of the South Sea frowned as she tried to recall Yi Xian's appearance. However, she was helpless as she could not recall where she had seen Yi Xian before, no matter how hard she tried. It was not just Guanyin of the South Sea. Venus Taibai and Shun Gongbao were also staring at Yi Xian with a hint of surprise in their eyes. Familiar, very familiar. Even though Yi Xian had the demonic Tongtian light and the peacock race's rainbow divine light, he still gave them a sense of familiarity. This made them constantly try to recall where they had seen Yi Xian before. Kongli, where are my big brother and second brother? Suddenly, old Mother Wuxian's delicate voice broke the strange silence, causing Guanyin of the South Sea and the others to regain their senses. Where are your big brother and second brother? The sky-swallowing toad took a step forward as its terrifying mouth cracked open. It laughed coldly and said, Your big brother and second brother actually dared to come to my Tongtian Ridge to seek death. My big brother naturally had to fulfill their wishes, and had already destroyed their souls. As the sky-swallowing toad finished speaking, old Mother Wuxian's face instantly turned pale. Her eyes froze as the demonic light around her trembled. No, impossible. My second brother is at the second heaven of the Daluo realm. Big brother is a demon king at the third heaven of the Daluo realm. How could they have died at the hands of Kongli? Old Mother Wuxian shouted as she did not believe the sky-swallowing toad's words. Take a look at what this is. Before old Mother Wuxian could react, the sky-swallowing toad laughed sinisterly as the Simaru space opened. Two huge skeletons were stored in the Simaru space. The skeleton of Sun Bai was extremely frightening. Ah! When the two skeletons were reflected in old Mother Wuxian's eyes, she screamed. Her slender body trembled, and streaks of blue luan heavenly fire roared out. This was proof of how shaken her mind was. Bones, these are the bones of my big brother and second brother. Old Mother Wuxian wailed as tears flowed out of her eyes. She did not need to identify them carefully, as the demonic qi of her big brother and second brother still lingered in the bones. Kongli, I'll kill you. Old Mother Wuxian had already gone berserk. She did not even use her so-called demonic techniques. Instead, she transformed into her green phoenix form and used her most powerful technique to attack Yi Xian. The green phoenix of desolation fed on fire. Although it could not be reborn like the legendary fire phoenix, it was innately powerful and could control the fire essence of the world. It could be said that it was an absolute expert. The green phoenix screeched as it tore through the sky. When it spread its wings, it covered millions of miles of the sky. Its fierce eyes were filled with fire, as its sharp beak spewed out green phoenix heavenly fire. Chapter 442. Heavenly fire blotted out the sky and burned through the void. The true Samadhi flame spread its wings and turned the world into a world of flames. The primordial azure wand's terrifying might was on full display. Little evil creature, how dare you be so impudent before me? Yi Xian did not even use his cultivation. The moment he stepped forward, the origin immortal body tore through the sky and appeared in front of the primordial azure wand. His fist was like a star, destroying the world and piercing through the starry sky. The boundless demonic light shattered the primordial azure wand's chest, causing it to let out a miserable cry. Bang bang bang. Yi Xian's fleshly body was simply too terrifying. He completely ignored the azure wand's heavenly fire. Each of his punches caused the primordial azure wand's demonic blood to splatter everywhere. It also caused the primordial azure wand to transform back into old Mother Wuxian. Sister, save me. Old Mother Wuxian's chest had been pierced through, causing demonic blood to spray everywhere. She cried out for help from Guanyin of the South Sea. Little evil creature, No one will be able to save you today. Yi Xian coldly roared. When he struck out with his palm, it was as if an ancient demonic mountain had descended upon the mortal world. It shattered half of old Mother Wuxian's body, and shattered half of her face, heavily injuring her in the boundless sky. Bang! Yi Xian's jade-like hand suddenly grabbed old Mother Wuxian's tender neck, and lifted her broken body into the air. A sinister and excited smile appeared on Yi Xian's face. Stop! Guanyin of the South Sea shouted. The primordial jade vase flew out of her hand. Willow branches scattered immortal rain in an attempt to repel Yi Xian and save old Mother Wuxian. Bang! He punched out, shattering mountains and rivers. The so-called primordial jade vase was sent flying. Although the immortal rain fell on Yi Xian, it did not cause him any harm. The origin immortal body was too powerful. It was impossible for anyone below the third firmament of Grand Immortal to harm Yi Xian. Only Guanyin of the South Sea, who had reached the fourth firmament of Grand Immortal, could harm Yi Xian. Unfortunately, Guanyin of the South Sea had been stuck at the third firmament for hundreds of thousands of years. It was almost impossible for her to reach the fourth firmament. If she did not have the Buddha's golden alms bowl, Guanyin of the South Sea would have turned and fled. Guanyin of the South Sea against such a powerful Tongtian great demon. If she did not have the Buddha's golden bowl, she would not dare to confront Yi Xian. Demonic light piercing the heavens. Great Guanyin of the South Sea, Guanyin of Guanyin, and the Guanyin of this, of Guanyin of the Guanyin the. Watch. Strong, very strong, extremely strong. This was what Guanyin of the South Seas and the others felt. Let her go. Guanyin of the South Seas' face was gloomy. She stared at Yi Xian, but there was a hint of fear in her eyes. Clearly, she saw Yi Xian as her greatest enemy. This person is too strange. He is not in the great heavenly realm, but his combat strength is so terrifying. Logically speaking, he should be a famous figure in the three realms. Shen Gongbao frowned. He looked at Yi Xian with a serious expression. However, there was an extremely familiar feeling in his mind, but he could not remember where he had seen this person before. Dark magic eyes. Shen Gongbao's eyes were fixed. His eyes were shining. A wisp of dark green immortal light circulated in his eyes. Then he stared at Yi Xian, hoping to see through Yi Xian's true identity. Unfortunately, the five-colored divine light on Yi Xian's body was too blazing. Moreover, he cultivated the immortal scripture. The secret technique he used to transform into Kong Li was extremely strange. Even though Shen Gongbao's dark magic eyes were extremely powerful, he could not see through his true identity. It is indeed the five-colored peacock. Shen Gongbao sighed. There was a hint of disappointment in his eyes. In fact, Shen Gongbao already had a bold guess about Yi Xian. He had never heard of anyone in the three realms who could go against the Daluo Jingxian. If there was such a person, it could only be the East Pole Emperor, who fought in the Celestial Court 1,000 years ago. And Kong Li was even more terrifying than the East Pole Emperor. He was not in the Great Heavenly Realm, but he could severely injure old Mother Wuxian, who was in the second heaven of the Great Heavenly Realm. This completely overturned Shen Gongbao's worldview. Therefore, Shen Gongbao guessed that Kong Li might be the incarnation of Yi Xian. However, he was disappointed in the end. This was because Kong Li was indeed the five-colored peacock, and not the East Pole Emperor Yi Xian. In fact, Shen Gongbao was not the only one who wanted to check Yi Xian's true identity. Guanyin of the South Sea also had this suspicion. However, when she used her heavenly eyes and discovered that Kong Li was indeed the five-colored peacock, she heaved a sigh of relief. She knew that Kong Li was not the incarnation of Yi Xian. After all, Yi Xian had once given Guanyin of the South Sea a great shock. Not only did he kill Emperor Zhenwu in the Celestial Court, he even killed Yu Ding in the lower realm. Even though she and Guang Qingzi pursued him with the Buddha's golden alms bowl for millions of miles, he still managed to escape. At this moment, the demons of the Tongtian Mountains were roaring at the sky. 100,000 heavenly soldiers were watching in horror. Guanyin of the South Sea stood under the Buddha's golden alms bowl. She looked at Yi Xian with a complicated expression. Kong Li, it was not easy for you to reach your current cultivation level. Moreover, you are the descendant of Mahamyuri. Although I came here under the Buddha's decree to subdue you, I have no intention of harming you. I just want to bring you back to Spirited Mountain to cultivate in peace. Guanyin of the South Sea used her emotions to persuade Yi Xian. She even put down her pride and softly consoled Yi Xian. Taoist Kong, you are a great demon of the Tongtian Mountains in the lower realm. Why don't you follow Mahamayuri's example and convert to Buddhism? With your abilities, you can even obtain the position of a Buddha in Spirited Mountain's Great Thunderclap Temple. Venus Taibai laughed ingratiatingly. He knew that he could not afford to offend this great demon of the Tongtian Mountains. He even put himself in a very humble position, hoping to turn a big problem into a small one. This would also allow him to return to the Celestial Court and give an explanation to the Jade Emperor. Taoist Kong, your cultivation level is Tongtian. Your combat power is unparalleled in the 3 realms. If you are willing, I can recommend you to join the Jia Order. With your abilities, if you can become the disciple of the Tongtian, your cultivation level will definitely improve. It is not impossible for you to step into the sage to be in the future, Shen Gongbao said with a smile. At this moment, Old Mother Wuxian was detained by Yi Xian. Not only was her cultivation level sealed, but her life was also in the hands of Yi Xian. When she heard that the Celestial Court of Spirited Mountain wanted to recruit her, her eyes were full of bitterness. Yi Xian's expression was calm. He was not moved by the kind words of Guanyin of the South Sea and the others. However, when he saw Shen Gongbao, he frowned slightly, and a look of contemplation flashed across his eyes. Now that Old Mother Wuxian was a fish on the chopping block, he could do whatever he wanted. As long as he devoured Old Mother Wuxian's cultivation level, the Daluo 9 transformation technique would enter the 7th transformation realm. According to Yi Xian's original plan, Old Mother Wuxian was one of them. The Western Celestial Court had 2 Daluos. As long as he devoured these 3 Daluo Jinxian, he would be able to break through to the Daluo Jinxian realm. However, the Celestial Court's representative was Shen Gongbao. This caused a huge flaw in Yi Xian's plan. Chapter 443. Even though Yi Xian had killed Guanyin of the South Sea, he had only just reached the 8th Daluo Jinxian. He was still one step away from attaining the Daluo Jinxian. Although Shen Gongbao was also a Daluo, he had protected him during the battle in the Celestial Court. It was true that he was indebted to the Jia sect. However, Yi Xian knew very well that he and the Jia sect were just making use of each other. The Jia sect wanted to use him to rise again, and he also wanted to borrow the power of the Jia sect to do something. The two hit it off, and it was actually just a combination of interests. The so-called mercy and compassion had long been abandoned by Yi Xian when he was young. If he could step into the Daluo Jinxian, Yi Xian would not feel any pity for killing Shen Gongbao. The key problem was that he could not kill Shen Gongbao at all, because he had the celestial slashing sword in hand. This was the spiritual treasure of the Tongtian, and it had already made Shen Gongbao invincible. Moreover, Yi Xian did not want to be enemies with the Jia sect. After all, he was already on the opposite side of the Chan sect in Spirited Mountain. If he fell out with the Jia sect, this was not the result he wanted to see. Moreover, the Jia sect was very useful to him. The 33rd Celestial Court was Yi Xian's goal. He had always wanted to sit on the throne of the Celestial Emperor, so he was closely related to the Jia sect. Shen Gongbao could not be killed. However, now there was a problem in front of him. At this moment, Old Mother of Mount Wu was already a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Although Guanyin of the South Sea had the Buddha's golden alms bowl, Yi Xian also had the Immortal defying formation. He could totally kill her. However, in this way, his identity would also be exposed. And with one less Daluo, he would not be able to reach the Daluo Jinxian. If Spirited Mountain sent a Buddha above the 4th heaven of Daluo, he would be in an extremely dangerous situation. Yi Xian's expression was uncertain. The current situation made him somewhat unable to advance or retreat. Taoist Kong, let Sister Qinghuan go and return to Spirited Mountain with me. Buddha will definitely not blame you. Looking at the hesitation on Yi Xian's face, Guanyin of the South Sea thought that Yi Xian was moved by her words, so she advised him earnestly. Taoist Kong, I offended you before. She knew. Mountain would definitely not punish her. And Spirited Mountain would not punish Yi. And Spirited Mountain would definitely would not punish him. Hence, she could only trembled and begged Yi. Because. Suddenly. And hisses and of the sea. And of the heaven. And in the and the others is s and n and the was. And the heaven s. His of the. And of to of. Hers. Tribulation. A simple sentence filled with Yi Xian's supreme killing intent. With a ferocious expression, he formed the Calamity Transcender technique, and directly turned old Mother Wuxian into a blood-colored ball, sealing her primordial spirit within. Ah! Miserable screams pierced through the heavens as old Mother Mount Wu's primordial spirit howled in grief. Being suppressed by the Calamity Immortal technique had caused her to suffer an extremely terrifying torture. This caused South Sea Guanin's complexion to darken to the extreme. How dare you, evil creature? You don't know how to repent. If I let you do as you please today, how can I face the people of the three realms? Guanin of the South Sea was furious. She had already lowered herself to give Yi Xian a chance, but he killed Mountain Mother in front of her. This was a slap to her face. How could she tolerate it? Unfortunately, Yi Xian turned a deaf ear to Guanin of the South Sea's angry rebuke. His palm and fingers swept through the air, opening the Sumeru space and sucking the blood-colored ball into it. Then, he looked at Guanin of the South Sea viciously. An extremely fierce killing intent bloomed around him. Since he had already come this far, there was no turning back. So what if he had one less Daluo Jingxian? As long as he killed Guanin of the South Sea, he would be able to gather 8 Daluo Jingxian. Before Spirit Mountain received the news, he would launch a shocking massacre in the North Continent. He would devour the cultivation of hundreds of millions of demons, which would be enough for him to reach the great mastery of the Golden Core. As long as he could step into the Daluo Jingxian, who would he Yi Xian be afraid of in the three realms? Go to hell! Without further ado, Yi Xian's palm and fingers struck the sky, stirring up the winds and clouds. The 5-colored divine light swept through everything. The Tongtian's demonic light exploded in the sky as he charged towards Guanin of the South Sea violently. How dare you, evil creature! Before the Buddha's golden alms bowl, only death awaits you. Rumble! The Buddha's golden alms bowl was immeasurable. The Buddha's light that could save the world sprayed out from the golden alms bowl, directly annihilating Yi Xian. The golden Buddha's rain poured down on Yi Xian's body, causing an earth-shattering explosion. 8 gates of life and death, immortal transformation. Yi Xian's jet-black hair violently fluttered in the wind as he roared towards the sky. The immortal defying diagram appeared, and when the starlight that filled the sky descended, the 8 doors sealed the heavens and the earth. That unfathomable aura sealed the heavens and the earth for millions of miles. Kill! With a punch, demonic light illuminated the sky. The so-called Buddha's golden alms bowl was blasted 100,000 miles away. The inverse immortal formation floated above his head, releasing the inverse immortal might that directly offset the vast power of the Buddha's golden alms bowl. Such a scene silenced the world. Guanin of the South Sea was stunned speechless. Her teeth chattered as she looked at Yi Xian with a look of extreme horror. Inverse immortal formation. You're Yi Xian? Guanin of the South Sea trembled as she roared. She was so shocked that she couldn't be any more shocked. Even though she was controlling the Buddha's golden alms bowl, and didn't suffer any damage from Yi Xian's attack, her current state of mind made her tremble to the extreme. East Emperor. You're the East Emperor? Tai Bai Jingxing shrieked. His originally rosy complexion turned deathly pale. He continuously retreated backwards as his body trembled uncontrollably. Shen Gongbao clenched his fists as his face turned extremely red. He looked at Yi Xian with an indescribable look of excitement. It really is him. It really is him. I knew it. Who else in the three realms besides the East Emperor could go against the Daluo Jingxian? Shen Gongbao roared excitedly. Not to mention the South Sea Guanin and Shen Gongbao. Other than the sky-swallowing toad and King Qingqiu, the other 8 demon kings were deathly silent. They looked at Yi Xian's back with extremely complicated expressions. Big brother. You're the East Emperor? Lionheart King said with a trembling voice. I knew it. Big Brother isn't a Daluo. How could he kill the Blood God King back then? White Deer King said bitterly. Alright, enough with the nonsense. Whether Big Brother is Kong Li or the East Emperor, he's still the Big Brother of the Tongtian Ridge. Rock King roared excitedly. Fifth Brother is right. Big Brother is the East Emperor. Only someone like him is worthy of us following him. Since Big Brother has revealed his identity today, he obviously won't let the people of the Celestial Court and Spirited Mountain go. Let's help Big Brother and kill all of them. Chapter 444. The sky-devouring toad's ferocious voice made the other monster kings nod in agreement. Boys, set up the 10,000 demon formation for Lao Tzu. The sky-swallowing toad roared, and its roar reverberated in the heavens and earth, causing countless demons to roar ferociously. An extremely terrifying demonic formation was formed in the Heavens Pass Ridge, directly trapping this part of the world. Clearly, it wanted the Spirit Mountain and the Heavenly Court to stay here. Above the firmament in the void, the inverse Immortal formation diagram glowed, the demonic light of the Tongtian Ridge bloomed, and Yi Xian's demon chi dissipated, revealing his original appearance. He looked at Guanyin of the South Sea, as if he was looking at a dead person. Yi Xian, it's you? Guanyin of the South Sea tried her best to calm her emotions. Her eyes turned red, and were filled with great hatred. However, if one listened carefully, one would notice that her voice was trembling. I have to say, I've been hiding in the North Continent for thousands of years. In the end, we still met. This is your fate. Thump, thump, thump. The inverse Immortal formation diagram glowed, and the immortal demonic light of the past and present shot into the sky. Yi Xian strolled in the void, heading straight for Guanyin of the South Sea. He did not take Guanyin of the South Sea seriously at all. Guanyin of the South Sea's original name was Dawa Si Hang, one of the 12 ancient golden immortals. Unfortunately, she was only at the third heaven of Grand Luo. If not for the Buddha's golden alms bowl, Yi Xian would have killed her. Run. Yes, run. Guanyin of the South Sea did not hesitate, nor did she feel embarrassed. The three monster kings of the North Continent had died tragically at the hands of Yi Xian. The old monster of Mount Ji was also at the third heaven of Grand Luo like her. But he had also died at the hands of Yi Xian. This proved that Yi Xian's cultivation was no longer the same as before. She was definitely no match for Yi Xian. Although Guanyin of the South Sea had the Buddha's golden alms bowl, Yi Xian also had the inverse Immortal formation diagram. With the two nullifying each other, her only trump card was nothing. If she really fought Yi Xian, it would be an act of suicide. He immediately fled back to the Spirit Mountain and reported this matter to the Buddha. At that time, all the Buddhas in the sky would charge to the heavenly ridge and kill Yi Xian. This was the foolproof method. Guanyin of the Buddha's ridge. Guanyin of Guanyin the West. Without any nonsense Guanyin. Guanyin the West. Guanyin's you. Yi Xian sneered sinisterly. The 8 gates of life and death hummed as they rotated, directly blocking the path of the southern sea Guanyin. The immortal defying diagram shot over, bringing with it an unfathomable power as it descended towards the Buddha's golden alms bowl. OM. The two supreme treasures collided with a loud bang and were locked in a stalemate in the sky. The terrifying aftershocks that were released caused the void to explode violently for thousands of miles. Great Devil Fist. The Tongtian Ridge could shake the earth. The Great Devil Fist was one of the killing arts of the undying immortal scripture, and now that it was used with the origin immortal body, it was even more terrifying. Yi Xian punched out, shattering the void for millions of miles. The fist energy that seemed to pierce through the heavens, and the earth hurtled toward Guanyin of the South Sea. Her expression changed, and she hurled the pristine jade bottle in an attempt to block Yi Xian's killing arts. Crack! How terrifying was the Great Devil Fist when used with the origin immortal body. Although the jade pristine bottle was famous in the 3 realms, it still cracked like a spider web when facing Yi Xian's punch. Under the guidance of his mind, it caused the South Sea Guanyin's face to turn pale, and blood slowly flowed out from the corner of her mouth. Die for me! Yi Xian was not Daluo Jingxian, but he was also not at the All-Heaven realm. Ever since he had condensed the golden core and used it with the Origin Immortal body, he was invincible among those at the third firmament of Origin Immortal realm. How could a mere Guanyin of the South Sea be his match? Bang! A single punch, just a single punch, caused the Buddhist light around the South Sea Guanyin to shatter inch by inch. Yi Xian's punch directly pierced through her heart, causing the South Sea Guanyin's blood to splatter across the sky as she retreated in panic. You can't run! Yi Xian roared savagely. Since he had revealed his true body, he had no intention of letting Guanyin of the South Sea leave. He took a step forward, causing the heavens to tremble. The Origin Immortal body glowed with unprecedented light, and strands of an aura that did not belong to the three realms swirled around him. Die! Yi Xian punched out, his undying immortal scripture madly circulating. His killing arts gathered in his hands, and his heaven-defying fists were like ancient demonic mountains capable of destroying mountains and rivers, as well as slaying immortals and Buddhas. Bang! 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 His fists glowed like stars, their aura suppressing both the past and present. In the face of Yi Xian's tyrannical assault, Guanyin of the South Sea was bathed in blood. She constantly used immortal arts, even fusing them with Buddhist light, but she could not stop Yi Xian's assault. Golden blood gushed out of Guanyin of the South Sea's mouth. Several large holes appeared on her body, and her pale white bones could be vaguely seen. She had been severely injured by Yi Xian, and was on the verge of death. Her appearance was even more wretched. Amitba! Suddenly, Guanyin of the South Sea came to a stop. She put her palms together and chanted a Buddhist mantra. A golden lotus appeared behind her, emanating Buddhist light that enveloped her body. Golden lotus of the Tao fruit? Yi Xian was taken aback, a hint of cruel disdain appearing on his face. The golden lotus of the Tao fruit was a technique unique to Buddhism, and also its greatest trump card. When Buddhas were on the verge of nirvana, they would condense a golden lotus of the Tao fruit, hoping to be reborn within it. However, this technique was extremely dangerous. It could be said that there was only a slim chance of survival. A single misstep would cause the person's soul to disperse and die. However, the benefits of this technique were also great. If one could be reborn within the golden lotus of the Tao fruit, their cultivation would improve greatly, and all injuries would be healed in an instant. Since the beginning of the world, every Buddhist almighty knew this technique. However, among all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the world, there were few who could be reborn within the golden lotus of the Tao fruit. Yi Xian was a person who would never put himself in danger, and he would never give anyone a chance to turn the tables. As long as it was his enemy, he would kill them as soon as possible. He would not leave any loose ends. This was because Yi Xian had always believed in one sentence. If you cut the grass without removing the roots, it will grow again when the spring breeze blows. Go to hell! Yi Xian threw a punch at Guanyin of the South Sea, but something miraculous happened. Guanyin of the South Sea was chanting softly, her pale face emotionless. However, the Buddhist light blocked Yi Xian's punch and rebounded with a terrifying force, causing Yi Xian to retreat 3 steps. Invulnerable. This scene made Yi Xian mutter gloomily. He did not expect the golden lotus of the Buddhists to be so powerful. It could even completely block his attack. It was also at this moment that the chanting that filled the sky became louder. Within the golden lotus of the Tao fruit, Guanyin of the South Sea's body seemed to be burning. There was also a Buddhist holy light that bloomed to the extreme. An extremely terrifying fluctuation was emitted from Guanyin of the South Sea. Oh no, she's about to succeed in her nirvana. Yi Xian growled gloomily. He suddenly felt a sense of oppression in his mind. This feeling of oppression made Yi Xian's mind tremble, causing him to narrow his eyes. 4th heaven of Zenith heaven? Yi Xian's eyes were solemn, and his voice was extremely low. He could tell the state Guanyin of the South Sea was in at a glance. Chapter 445. Guanyin of the South Sea had been stuck at the 3rd heavenly layer for hundreds of thousands of years. Now that she was forced to use the golden lotus Tao fruit, she was reborn in nirvana. If she succeeded in nirvana, she would definitely be able to step into the 2nd realm of Daluo Jingxian. Her cultivation would receive a qualitative improvement. Even though the difference between the third and fourth heavens of the all-heaven realm was only one level, the difference between them was like the difference between heaven and earth. If the Southern Sea Guanyin were to step into the fourth level of the all-heaven realm, Yi Xian would probably encounter a life-and-death crisis. You want to use me as a whetstone to help you break through to the fourth heavenly layer? You're really stupid. Yi Xian laughed sinisterly. Then, he suddenly looked at Shen Gongbao and said with a strange and cold voice, "Lend me the celestial ending sword." Hearing Yi Xian's words, Shen Gongbao did not hesitate. He also knew that he could not let Guanyin of the South Sea succeed in nirvana. He formed a sword art, and the celestial ending sword clanged. It turned into a green light and shot towards Yi Xian. Not copper, not iron, not steel. It was once hidden under Mount Sudi. Without the yin and yang reversal refinement, how could it not be tempered by water and fire? Slaying immortal sharp, slaying immortal death, trapping immortal red light everywhere. The celestial ending sword's changes were endless. The blood of the Daluo immortals dyed his robe. The celestial ending sword was the #1 killing weapon under the heavenly Tao. It was one of the 4 celestial slaying swords. It was infamous in the heaven, earth and mortal realms. Even Daluo Jingxian would be heavily injured if he was hit by it. The celestial ending sword was 3 feet and 7 inches long. It emitted a misty green light and a vast evil aura that annihilated the void. When Yi Xian held the celestial ending sword in his hand, the evil sword light was like a ferocious beast roaring. The killing intent that pierced through the 3 realms exploded. Die! With the sword in hand, I have the world. Yi Xian held the absolute immortal sword in his hand, as his cultivation surged into the absolute immortal sword. The great Luo immortal body glowed, and when he stabbed out with his sword, the world distorted. That wisp of azure light seemed to become the only thing in the world. Rip! A green light pierced of time, ignoring the light of Buddha, and pierced through the forehead of Guanyin of the South Sea. Ah! Guanyin of the South Sea let out a shrill cry as her Tao fruit and golden lotus crumbled inch by inch. The Buddhist light of the Dharma vanished without a trace. Guanyin of the South Sea, who was about to complete her nirvana, not only did she fail to step into the 4th heaven of the grand heavenly realm, but the Buddhist light around her was also being extinguished as an extreme aura of death spread around her. Celestial ending sword. It was actually the celestial ending sword that ruined my plans. Guanyin of the South Sea roared. Her eyes were filled with despair, helplessness, and unwillingness. A little bit. It was truly just a little bit more. So long as she was given another 10 breaths of time, she would be able to step foot into the 4th level of the golden immortal realm, and she would definitely be able to crush Yi Xian in space. However, she no longer had the chance, because the extinguishing celestial sword was the #1 weapon under the heavenly Tao. The power it contained was far too terrifying. Even the light of Buddha could not stop it. One had to know that when Shen Gongbao fought the Jade Emperor, he was only at the 2nd heaven of the grand heavenly realm. However, with the extinguishing celestial sword, he was able to fight the Jade Emperor to a standstill. The Jade Emperor even had to use the investiture of the gods to suppress Shen Gongbao. From this, one could see how terrifying the extinguishing celestial sword was. The 4 immortal slaying swords were the #1 weapon under the heavenly Tao. However, that was not the most terrifying part. The most terrifying part was the immortal slaying formation. That was the core of the 4 immortal slaying swords. The 4 immortal slaying swords were controlled by the immortal slaying formation. It could set up the #1 killing formation of all time, the immortal slaying sword formation. That was Tongtian's most terrifying move. During the great investiture of the gods, Tongtian used the immortal slaying sword formation to fight against the 4 sages alone. Although he was defeated in the end, the name of the immortal slaying formation spread throughout the 3 realms. At this moment, although the extinguishing celestial sword was only one of the 4 swords, and was not controlled by the immortal slaying formation, it was still an extremely terrifying killing sword. How could Guanyin of the South Sea block it? Puchi! Yi Xian withdrew the sword, causing Guanyin of the South Sea to let out a miserable cry. Her forehead had been pierced. Although no blood flowed out, Her primordial spirit had become dim and lifeless. If she was not treated in time, her primordial spirit would be destroyed. Wang! The extinguishing celestial sword clanged as it flew back into Shen Gongbao's hand. Yi Xian quietly appeared in front of Guanyin of the South Sea, a sinister and ruthless expression on his face. Die! Yi Xian blasted out with his palm. Clearly, he wanted to shatter Guanyin of the South Sea's physical body, and then use the Tribulation Transcender technique to condense her cultivation Dao fruit. No! Facing Yi Xian's killing blow, Guanyin of the South Sea let out a sorrowful cry. However, she was seriously injured and on the verge of death. She did not have the strength to resist at all. This caused her to close her eyes in despair. Interesting. I didn't expect that there would be someone in the three realms who could go against the Daluo Jingxian. Today I have truly opened my eyes. Suddenly, a chuckle echoed in the void, causing Yi Xian's expression to change greatly. He did not have the time to kill Guanyin of the South Sea at all. He directly slammed his palm on her head, and then looked around with a malicious expression. Which supreme expert has graced us with his presence? Please come out and meet me, Yi Xian said cautiously. His mind was trembling violently, and his eyes were extremely solemn. Terrifying, too terrifying. It was just a voice, but it made Yi Xian feel as if he was facing a great enemy. This was because he could completely feel that the entire world seemed to be motionless, and even the extremely mysterious laws of space and time were motionless. Obviously, the cultivation of this person was unimaginable. It was not something he could guess at the moment. There was a voice in the dark telling Yi Xian that the owner of this voice was definitely not a match for him. Even if he had the inverse immortal formation, he would still die at the hands of this person. Unless he entered the zenith heavenly realm and cultivated the tribulation transcender transformation, and had the inverse immortal formation, he might be able to fight this person. This feeling was extremely strong. Yi Xian believed in this feeling very much. This made him treat it with caution. Even the heaven-destroying halberd was activated, and the power of the heavenly demon condensed in his sea of consciousness. The greatest enemy of the world. These four simple words lingered in Yi Xian's mind. This was because the other party gave him a sense of oppression that was as heavy as a mountain. You are very interesting. You dare to impersonate the five-colored peacock clan and kill demons, immortals and Buddhas. You have no respect for the Buddhism of the Chan sect. Don't you know that you are seeking your own death by doing this? Buzz. The world seemed to have stopped, and the golden light was hazy. A golden figure walked over from afar. With every step he took, the world seemed to have become extremely narrow, as if it could not accommodate this figure at all. The golden light dissipated, and the void stagnated. A handsome young man's face appeared. His cheeks were as sharp as a knife, and he had a pair of handsome eyebrows. However, when he opened and closed his eyes, it gave people a sense of vicissitudes of life. Mahamayuri! Shen Gongbao exclaimed. Venus Taibai was trembling silently. Even the 10 great demon kings were trembling to the extreme. They even knelt down in the void under the majestic aura of Mahamayuri. Mahamayuri's real name was Kong Xian. He was the first peacock since the creation of the world. His talent, the five-colored divine light, was known throughout the three realms. After the great god investiture tribulation, he even became the disciple of the two sages of the West. He was definitely the most respected existence in the three realms. Chapter 446. As mentioned before, Daluo Jingxian had a total of 3 watersheds, each of which was as different as heaven and earth. Mahamayuri was a terrifying figure in the 3rd watershed. Rumor had it that Mahamayuri was on his way to becoming a sage-to-be. The 3 realms were respected and worshipped by all living beings. Kong Xian's reputation was so terrifying that no one dared to provoke him. Greetings, Wisdom King. Shen Gongbao bowed. Venus Taibai immediately knelt on the ground. Even the roaring of the demons in the mountains stopped abruptly. Obviously, no one dared to act rashly in front of Kong Xian. Kong Xian. Yi Xian's eyes froze and his face turned pale. Emperor, you can't call Wisdom King by his name. Shen Gongbao's face changed, and he quickly reminded him in a low voice. Cold sweat appeared on his forehead. Although Mahamayuri belonged to the Western Spirited Mountain, he was not benevolent and peaceful. He was extremely arrogant, and even dared to attack the sages in the Eldritch Age. Even the orthodoxies did not dare to provoke him. He would kill anyone he wanted to kill. He did not care about the orthodoxies at all. Therefore, Kang Xian was an extremely difficult person to deal with. Even the sages would turn a blind eye to him. Kang Xian had been cultivating himself for the past 1,000,000 years, and did not appear in the three realms. However, this did not mean that he was kind. On the contrary, he was extremely fierce. How dare you, kid? Not only did you call my name, but you also pretended to be one of my people. Aren't you afraid that I'll kill you here? Kang Xian's expression turned cold. An aura that could suppress the ancient and modern world spread out, and directly attacked Yi Xian's body. It was as if he was going to kill Yi Xian in the next moment. Emperor quickly apologized to Wisdom King. Shen Gongbao's face turned pale, and he quickly advised Yi Xian. He kept bowing to Kang Xian and begged, Wisdom King, the East Pole Emperor is the person who will bring prosperity to the Jia Order. Tang Tian even gave him the celestial slashing sword to protect him. Please calm down. Kang Xian's face turned cold. He narrowed his eyes and looked at Shen Gongbao. He said coldly, Are you threatening me with Tang Tian? Kang Xian was too terrifying. Just his aura alone was enough to make Shen Gongbao feel suffocated. However, he knew that he had to protect Yi Xian. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to explain himself to the Grand Master of Heaven. I don't dare to threaten Wisdom King. But if Wisdom King insists on punishing him, then I can only be unreasonable and use the celestial extinguishing sword to protect the East Pole Emperor. Even if I die in the hands of Wisdom King, I will have no regrets, Shen Gongbao said with a trembling voice. Haha. Suddenly Kang Xian laughed wildly. His expression instantly turned cold. He did not seem to have done anything, but when he waved his sleeve in the air, the world around him was distorted. Even time and space seemed to be changing. Buzz! The celestial slashing sword flew out of Shen Gongbao's hand and appeared in Kang Xian's hand. Kang Xian caressed the celestial slashing sword and praised, What a good celestial slashing sword. It's a pity that it's only one of the 4 swords. If all 4 swords were in your hands, I might have to be cautious. This. Such a scene made Shen Gongbao tremble. His eyes were filled with despair. If it were someone else, Shen Gongbao was confident that he could use Tang Tian to threaten the other party. However, it was Mahamayuri, which made him extremely desperate. Mahamayuri was extremely difficult to deal with. He was also a lawless person. After the Great God Investiture Tribulation, Heavenly Saint Hongjun issued a decree that saints were not allowed to be born. Hence, no one dared to provoke Mahamayuri. To put it bluntly, even if Kang Xian killed Yi Xian, it was impossible for Tang Tian to go against Hongjun's decree and manifest the 3 realms to kill Kang Xian. Looking at Shen Gongbao's trembling and deathly pale face, Kang Xian chuckled and ignored him. He then turned around to look at Yi Xian and coldly said, Little doll, aren't you afraid of me? I am, and I'm not afraid, Yi Xian said calmly, and looked straight at Kang Xian. His attitude was neither haughty nor humble. Oh, Kang Xian was slightly stunned as a strange expression flashed past his eyes. He said, If I'm not wrong, you cultivate the undying immortal scripture. Moreover, you've cultivated it to an extremely deep level. Could it be that you think you can escape from me by relying on the undying immortal scripture? No, Yi Xian said. Haha. Kang Xian laughed loudly, and his face suddenly turned gloomy. Monstrous murderous intent burst out, and the endless clouds in the sky rolled. The sun, moon, and stars dimmed, and a celestial art condensed in his hand. Kid, you are indeed very courageous, and I admire people like you. However, you dared to impersonate the 5-colored peacock clan. This is a great disrespect to my clan. You deserve to die for this crime alone. Kang Xian said coldly, as if he would kill Yi Xian in the next moment. You won't kill me. Suddenly, Yi Xian said calmly without waiting for Kang Xian to make a move. There was no fear in his eyes as he looked at Kang Xian. Kang Xian was slightly stunned, and the murderous intent around him froze slightly. He then smiled contemptuously and said, What a joke! How do you know that I won't kill you? Kong Xian, I have to say that you are indeed a great figure. Even the various orthodoxies are not worthy of your attention. However, if you wanted to kill me, you would have done it just now. Now, you are talking so much nonsense with me. You are just testing me. Do you think this is very interesting? Yi Xian said calmly. As Yi Xian's words fell, Kong Xian held his breath and then smiled. The murderous intent around him disappeared without a trace. He looked at Yi Xian with a strange gaze. You are indeed very interesting. You are right. I have no intention of killing you at all. I also admire your talent. This time, I have appeared before you only because I want to take you as my disciple. If you acknowledge me as your master, I will write off the matter of you impersonating my clan. Kong Xian said with a smile. Become my disciple? Yi Xian murmured to himself and then smiled. He looked at Kong Xian with an extremely strange gaze and said, Kong Xian, you are really daring. You actually want to take me as your disciple? Upon hearing Yi Xian's slightly mocking words, even though Kong Xian admired Yi Xian very much, his expression turned cold, and a slight anger appeared in his heart. He said, Do I not have the right to take you as my disciple? Emperor, quickly become the wise king's disciple. Shen Gongbao hurriedly transmitted secretly, afraid that Yi Xian would anger Kong Xian. Unfortunately, Yi Xian ignored Shen Gongbao's words, and said with a slightly mocking voice, Kong Xian, you have only cultivated for 10 million years more than me. I, Yi Xian, have cultivated for less than 3,000 years, and am about to step into the Daluo realm. If I had 10 million years more, I would have stepped into the Saint realm. What right do you have to take me as your disciple? How dare you? As Yi Xian's words fell, Kong Xian's face turned red. His voice was like the chaotic divine thunder, and directly caused the sky to explode. The power that could crush the world was undoubtedly displayed. Chapter 447. You're angry from embarrassment. Yi Xian wasn't afraid in the slightest, and he laughed with ridicule instead. Are you forcing me to kill you? This time, Kong Xian wasn't pretending to be angry, and he was truly infuriated by Yi Xian. After countless years had passed, even people at the same cultivation realm as him didn't dare speak to him like this. Yet this junior before him actually dared to ridicule him like this. So, how could Kong Xian not be furious? I've said it before. You won't kill me, because you can't afford to lose face like this. If you kill me with your strength at the third watershed of the golden immortal realm, then even if the living beings of the 3 dimensions won't laugh at you, your pride won't allow you to pass this trial. Yi Xian spoke slowly. Kid, you're too confident. I really don't want to bully the weak, but you're even disrespectful to me by pretending to be a member of my clan. Just these 2 crimes alone are enough for you to die. Kong Xian's eyes narrowed slightly while his voice was cold and merciless. Obviously, Kong Xian wasn't just joking, and he really intended to kill Qin Shi, because Yi Xian was too intelligent. It was like a worm in his stomach, and all his thoughts and intentions were known by this junior. Since you're unwilling to take me as your master, and have even committed these 2 crimes, then I can only be merciless and kill you here today. Thump, thump, thump. Kong Xian strode through the sky and walked slowly towards Yi Xian. His all-heaven immortal glow threw the world into chaos, causing space to distort while the laws of the heavens and the earth to surge, and it fully displayed Kong Xian's supreme might. 100 years. I'll be able to step into the golden immortal realm within 100 years. At that time, I won't be afraid of fighting you. I wonder if Bright King dares to accept my challenge? Yi Xian's eyes narrowed slightly while his voice gradually became cold and fierce. Haha, what a joke. What a joke. I'll kill you if I want to, even if you step into the golden immortal realm within 100 years. Do you think you'll be a match for me? Kong Xian rebuked coldly. We'll know in 100 years. I wonder if you dare accept my challenge? Yi Xian sneered. Reverse psychology. Kong Xian smiled disdainfully, but the killing intent around him disappeared once again. He took a deep look at Yi Xian and said in a low voice, Little kid, I have to say that although your provocation is a little low level, it is very effective on me. I will give you 100 years. After 100 years, I will personally come and take your life. All right, let's seal the deal. 100 years later, You and I will fight in the 33rd Celestial Court, Yi Xian said coldly. He even extended his right hand and looked at Kong Xian. Such a scene made Kong Xian slightly stunned, and then he laughed heartily. In the horrified eyes of Shen Gongbao and the others, he also stretched out his right palm and slapped Yi Xian. Kid, I'll wait for you to step into the grand heavenly realm in 100 years. Kong Xian laughed wildly. Golden light covered the sky, and the laws of heaven and earth were distorted. He also instantly turned into a golden rainbow and disappeared. However, the celestial slashing sword shot down from the sky and returned to Shen Gongbao's hand. Obviously, Kong Xian could not snatch the sage's spiritual treasure, unless he really wanted to offend the Tongtian. Wisdom King, save me! Guanyin of the South Sea cried for help miserably. Unfortunately, Kong Xian did not even look at her, let alone save her. After Kong Xian left, Yi Xian let out a long breath. Fine beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Obviously, he pretended to be calm, but he was actually very flustered. How could Yi Xian really be calm when facing such a powerful Tongtian that he could not defeat? Just now, Yi Xian was just taking a risk. He was not sure if Kong Xian would attack him, but fortunately, he made the right bet and avoided the crisis. Although Kong Xian was a person whose moods fluctuated, the pride in his bones did not allow him to bully the weak. In the three realms, he could be considered a proud and unyielding man, and was definitely not a scheming hypocrite like the Jade Emperor. Your Majesty, you are too bold, Shen Gongbao said with lingering fear. Kong Xian is a straightforward person. He is indeed a top figure. Yi Xian praised. He also admired Kong Xian very much. Emperor, you really don't have to fight Wisdom King. Wisdom King only wants to take you as his disciple. If you take him as your master, he will naturally protect you. Even if you return to the Celestial Court, the Jade Emperor will not dare to do anything to you. Shen Gongbao sighed. You are wrong. Yi Xian looked up at the sky and murmured. If we are talking about masters, I, Yi Xian, only have one, and he is my biggest enemy. In this world, there is no one who can make me take him as my master. Even Kong Xian is no exception. Yi Xian paused for a moment and said with a strange smile. Moreover, how do you know that I will not be a match for Kong Xian in 100 years? Hearing Yi Xian's words, Shen Gongbao was stunned. He did not know where Yi Xian got his confidence from. He dared to compare himself with Kong Xian. After all, Kong Xian was a terrifying figure in the third watershed of the Daluo realm. He was an existence that was revered as an ancestor, and was worshipped by all living beings in the three realms. Unfortunately, Shen Gongbao did not know that Old Mother Wushan and Guanyin of the South Sea were in his hands. As long as Yi Xian devoured their cultivation, he would only need to reach the last Daluo realm to break through to the Daluo Jingxian. When Yi Xian stepped into the Daluo Jingxian, he would undergo a shocking transformation. It was not something that Shen Gongbao could imagine. The Tribulation Transcender transformation, the Immortal Defying formation, and the mysterious heaven-destroying halberd could be used. At that time, Yi Xian would be extremely terrifying. Emperor, now that your identity has been exposed, I'm afraid that the Celestial Court of Numinous Mountain will not let this matter rest. How should we deal with Old Man Taibai now? Shen Gongbao's question also made Venus Taibai's face turn pale. He looked at Yi Xian with a look of extreme despair. Bring Venus Taibai back to the Tongtian Ridge, and kill all 100,000 celestial soldiers. Yi Xian's gloomy voice made Shen Gongbao's expression change. He did not expect Yi Xian to be so ruthless that he wanted to kill 100,000 celestial soldiers here. However, Shen Gongbao was not a kind person. With a sinister smile, he detained Venus Taibai. The 10 monster kings were very sensible. Without waiting for Yi Xian's order, they gathered the countless demons in the Tongtian Ridge to kill 100,000 celestial soldiers. Yi Xian was not interested in watching the boring slaughter. He directly brought Shen Gongbao back to the Tongtian Ridge, but behind him came the miserable wails of 100,000 celestial soldiers. In the endless sky, golden light flickered. Kong Xian walked in the sky. Every step he took seemed to be so close yet so far away. He was returning to his own training ground. Master, I really don't understand. This East Pole monarch clearly offended you, and even pretended to be a rainbow peacock. Why didn't you kill him, and instead let him live? You even slapped his hand as an oath, and made a promise of 100 years? The golden sparrow stood on Kang Xian's shoulder. Its soft female voice was filled with confusion. Haha. Kang Xian smiled. His eyes seemed to be drifting. He said, Xiao, do you think that I was provoked by Yi Xian? Xiao wouldn't dare. You clearly think so, but you don't dare to admit it. Do you fear me that much? Kang Xian teased. Xiao knows that Master must have his own ideas. I wouldn't dare to guess what Master is thinking, the golden sparrow said shyly. Kang Xian nodded and smiled. Haven't you realized? This Yi Xian is very similar to me when I was young. He has a belief that he will never admit defeat. When I look at him, it's like looking at me when I was young. It's just that I'm too straightforward. I can't tolerate even the slightest bit of sand in my eyes. In the endless years that have passed, I don't know how many times I've been taken advantage of. I've even been schemed against by the saints. However, Yi Xian is a man who combines strength and gentleness. He's definitely not a fish in a pond. Today, I want to form a good relationship with him. Perhaps he can help me in the future. Hearing Kang Xian's words, the golden sparrow was stunned for a moment. Then, she suddenly came to her senses and said, Master, he's not even the Daluo Jinxian. Although his battle prowess is unparalleled, how can he help you? Kang Xian sighed. He gazed into the distance and murmured, The three realms have no lack of monstrous talents. However, I've never seen someone like Yi Xian. Regardless of whether he's the main character of the immeasurable calamity or not, my intuition tells me that this person will definitely be extraordinary in the future. Perhaps it's not impossible for him to become a saint. Become a saint? The golden sparrow whispered in astonishment. She had never thought that Kang Xian would give Yi Xian such a high evaluation. This simply shocked her to the core. Yes, become a saint. There's still one saint in this world. However, after endless years, the last saint has never appeared. My intuition tells me that this Yi Xian may be the one who becomes a saint. Today, it seems that I've been provoked by him. However, I'm actually expressing my goodwill to him. If I don't find a reason to leave, and let the creatures of the three realms know that I've humbly befriended him, wouldn't they laugh at me? Kang Xian said with a self-deprecating smile. But no matter what, you're still a member of Spirited Mountain. Guanyin is in great trouble, and she's asking you for help. If you leave her alone, I'm afraid you won't be able to explain it to Spirited Mountain. Humph. Without waiting for the golden sparrow to finish, Kang Xian snorted coldly and interrupted. As long as the saints don't come out and the sage-to-be is cultivating in seclusion, what can Duo Bao Rulai do to me? If he dares to make any noise, I'll just destroy his great thunderclap temple. Kang Xian was a peerless talent, a mighty Tongtian figure, and a lawless figure. Today, he had secretly formed a good karma with Yi Xian. In fact, he was already faintly drawing closer to Yi Xian. However, as a Daluo and a figure revered as an ancestor, Kang Xian could not bend his back to befriend Yi Xian. He could only wait for Yi Xian to have the strength to match his before the two of them could truly walk together. Chapter 448. Tongtian Ridge, 9 Demon Cave. Yi Xian returned to his original appearance, and sat on the main seat. The 10 demon kings stood on his left and right. Shen Gongbao sat on one side with a calm expression. Only Venus Taibai knelt down and trembled. Venus Taibai was the exalted immortal of the Celestial Court. He was the Jade Emperor's trusted aide. Since the establishment of the Celestial Court, Venus Taibai was the Jade Emperor's spokesperson, even though his cultivation was not high. Today, Taibai Jinxing's face was filled with bitterness, and his eyes were filled with despair. He knew that it was very likely that he would die today. No one wanted to die. Even Venus Taibai was no exception. However, Venus Taibai knew that the person in front of him was the East Pole Emperor, a Tongtian Ridge character. Moreover, this character was at odds with the Jade Emperor. How could he survive? Tap, tap, tap. Yi Xian's palm and fingers knocked on the table, producing rhythmic sounds that broke the silence in the nine-demon cave. Old minister kowtows to the emperor. Venus Taibai humbly said and kowtowed 3 times to Yi Xian. However, his trembling body proved that he was not calm at all. Instead, he was filled with great fear. Yi Xian's eyes were deep as he looked at Taibai Jingxing, who was kneeling below. The corners of his mouth curled into a strange smile, causing one to feel uneasy at a glance. It was unknown what Yi Xian was thinking. Venus Taibai, logically speaking, you are the Jade Emperor's subordinate. There is nothing wrong with this emperor killing you. However, this emperor does not like killing. This emperor is considering whether to kill you or not. Yi Xian said in a low voice. Hearing Yi Xian's words, Venus Taibai's eyes flashed with joy. He knew that Yi Xian did not want to kill him. Otherwise, why would he say so much nonsense to him? Emperor, please understand. Old minister has never opposed the emperor. However, the Jade Emperor wants to kill you. The old minister is just a puppet in his hands. I can only act according to the Jade Emperor's orders. Venus Taibai explained in a trembling voice. Venus Taibai's attitude was servile and cowardly. The 10 demon kings and Shen Gongbao sneered at him with contempt in their eyes. Emperor, just kill this cowardly person. Shen Gongbao begged in a low voice. Shen Gongbao, don't go too far. Venus Taibai's expression changed greatly. He shouted angrily at Shen Gongbao. He kept looking at Yi Xian from the corner of his eyes. He was afraid that Yi Xian would really listen to Shen Gongbao's suggestion and kill him. Venus Taibai, this emperor will give you 2 choices. Without waiting for the 2 of them to continue glaring at each other, Yi Xian's calm voice sounded out, causing Taibai Jingxing to bow and kowtow. No matter what orders the emperor has, this old subject will definitely not dare to disobey. First, I will kill you today, and you will no longer exist in the 3 realms. Second, I will let you return to the celestial court if you pledge your loyalty to me. As soon as Yi Xian finished speaking, Taibai Jingxing's expression slightly changed. Although he'd already expected Yi Xian's thoughts, when Yi Xian personally mentioned this matter, it still caused his heart to thump and a troubled expression to appear on his face. Venus Taibai understood Yi Xian's intention. He wanted him to betray the Jade Emperor and stab him in the back at the critical moment. However, he had no way out. He could only stand with Yi Xian. If Yi Xian was defeated, he would be buried with Yi Xian. However, Venus Taibai also understood that he had no choice. If he did not choose to side with Yi Xian, he would definitely die today. The old minister is willing to pledge my loyalty to the Celestial Emperor. I will not hesitate to go through fire and water. Although Venus Taibai was afraid of death, he was an extremely smart person. Otherwise, he would not have been able to survive in the Celestial Court with just the cultivation of a grand unity mystic immortal. In the face of a life and death situation, he naturally chose to survive and not be foolishly loyal to the Jade Emperor. Looking at Venus Taibai's respectful expression, Yi Xian smiled and nodded. He liked to explain things to smart people. Venus Taibai was undoubtedly a smart person. He knew how to choose. Buzz! A speck of immortal light appeared at the tip of Yi Xian's finger. As Yi Xian pointed, a rune of immortal light entered Venus Taibai's sea of consciousness. This made Venus Taibai's eyes tremble, but he did not resist at all. Venus Taibai knew that Yi Xian would not let him go just because of his loyalty. Naturally, he would place restrictions on him. This was also within his expectations. This revenant attraction is a forbidden secret technique. Even the Daluo Jingxian cannot break it. Return to the Celestial Court now, Yi Xian said calmly. From the beginning to the end, Yi Xian did not say much, nor did he instruct Venus Taibai to return to the Celestial Court. This was because Yi Xian knew that Venus Taibai was a smart person. He knew what to say and what to do. This old subject thanks the Emperor for not killing me. From now on, this old subject is willing to be at the Emperor's beck and call. This old subject will definitely not dare to harbor any thoughts of betrayal. Taibai Jingxing kowtowed once more before standing up and taking his leave. As Venus Taibai returned to the Celestial Court, the entire cave of 9 demons became silent again. Emperor, this Venus Taibai is an old fox. He will definitely not be willing to be controlled by you. This time, When he returns to the celestial court, he will definitely find a way to break your restrictions. The Jade Emperor is very resourceful. If this Venus tie-bai reveals your identity to the Jade Emperor, I'm afraid. Shen Gongbao frowned slightly. Obviously, he did not understand Yi Xian's intention. You are right. This Venus tie-bai is indeed an old fox, but he is also a smart person. When he realized that he could not break my restrictions, he could only be used by me, Yi Xian said softly. Since Yi Xian dared to let him go, he was naturally extremely confident in his restrictions. This was because the Soul Guide was a secret technique of the Immortal scripture, and only someone who also cultivated the Immortal scripture could undo it. Even if the Jade Emperor wanted to break his restrictions, he would only cause Tai Bai Jinxing to die miserably on the spot. Moreover, Yi Xian believed that Venus Tai Bai was not stupid. As long as he cherished his life, he would never reveal his true identity to the Jade Emperor. This person would eventually become a blade in his hand, giving the Jade Emperor a fatal blow at the critical moment. Some people might ask why Yi Xian was so concerned about a small Venus Tai Bai. In fact, the reason was very simple. Venus Tai Bai was the Jade Emperor's confidant, but he was also the old minister of the Celestial Court. It could be said that he knew the 33 layers of the Celestial Court like the back of his hand. With such a person being used by Yi Xian, this would greatly increase the success rate of Yi Xian's plan to become the Celestial Emperor. Yes, to become the Celestial Emperor. If he could become the Celestial Emperor just by killing the Jade Emperor, this was simply a fantasy. It should be known that the Jade Emperor and Queen Mother were personally conferred by ancestor Hongjun, and were respected by both the Chan and Jie sects. The Western Spiritual Mountain even recognized his identity as the Celestial Emperor. The cause and effect of this was not that simple. Chapter 449. Venus Tai Bai was the old minister of the Celestial Court. Immortals from all sides were very familiar with him, and he was also an extremely important link for Yi Xian to win people over. This was also the reason why Yi Xian wanted to subdue Venus Tai Bai, because he wanted to ensure that he could control the entire Celestial Court. Emperor, now that your identity has been exposed, and you have killed Guanyin of the South Sea, I am afraid that it will not be long before Holy Mountain of the West discovers your identity. Why don't you leave the Tongtian Ridge first and temporarily hide from Holy Mountain? Shen Gongbao asked tentatively. Hide from Holy Mountain of the West? Yi Xian sneered and shook his head. His eyes were as deep as an ancient pool, and his voice murmured, You don't understand. Now is the most critical period for me. This 1,000 years of forbearance is about to come to an end. Shen Gongbao. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and said, Emperor, what are your orders? Shen Gongbao bowed. After you return to the Celestial Court, reorganize all the immortals of the Jia Order. It will take at most 80 years, or at least 50 years. I will definitely return to the Celestial Court, and then I will settle all the old grudges with the Jade Emperor. Hiss! Hearing Yi Xian's words, Shen Gongbao's expression changed slightly, and he could not help but gasp. He looked at Yi Xian with a touch of horror in his eyes. He had never thought that Yi Xian would have such great confidence to fight the Jade Emperor in 100 years. Emperor you! Before Shen Gongbao could persuade him, Yi Xian directly interrupted. Go do as I say. If I can sit on the throne of the Celestial Emperor, the conditions that I promised to make the Jia Order prosper will naturally be fulfilled. Yes, Emperor. Shen Gongbao's expression was shocked. Although there was a touch of worry in his eyes, he still agreed. What happened next was very simple. Yi Xian told Shen Gongbao some things, which Shen Gongbao kept in mind. 3 days later, Shen Gongbao left the Tongtian Ridge and returned to the Celestial Court. Ever since the 10 Demon Kings found out about Yi Xian's ambition and true identity, they were all extremely excited. If Yi Xian could really become the Celestial Emperor, then they would become immortals of the Celestial Court, and not mere demon kings of the lower realm. Although there was a great risk involved, the greater the risk, the greater the reward. This was why the 10 demon kings were willing to risk everything and fight for a bright future for themselves. As Yi Xian issued one order after another, the entire Tongtian Ridge was completely moved. An extremely austere aura spread in the Tongtian Ridge, as if it was the precursor of a volcanic eruption. Yi Xian went into seclusion again, and the endless demons of the Tongtian Ridge had already gathered. The 10 demon kings led the endless demons to wait for Yi Xian to appear at the Sunflower Water-Long River. Inside the 9 demon cave, 2 blood-colored balls buzzed and rotated. Miserable wails came from the blood-colored balls, accompanied by the curses of Guanyin of the South Sea and Old Mother Wushan. Yi Xian's face was distorted, and his eyes were full of sinister and ruthless colors when he opened and closed them. He completely ignored the vicious curses and begging of the 2. After swallowing your cultivation Dao fruits, I will only be 1 step away from stepping into the Zenith Heaven realm. Yi Xian whispered viciously. His hands formed the Tribulation Transcender technique, which instantly turned into a black vortex and swallowed the 2 blood-colored balls. Half a year was neither long nor short. However, to the 10 demon kings and the demons of Heaven Pass Ridge, this half a year was somewhat unbearable and torturous. Before Yi Xian went into seclusion, he had ordered them to gather at the Sunflower Water-Long River and wait for his next order. No one knew what Yi Xian was going to do, but the 10 demon kings believed in Yi Xian and naturally waited patiently. But after half a year, Yi Xian still showed no signs of coming out of seclusion. This caused the endless demons to talk about it, and it made the 10 demon kings a little uneasy. The reason for the 10 demon kings' uneasiness was very simple. It had been half a year since the people of the Celestial Court came. Although Yi Xian killed Guanyin of the South Sea and blocked the news, the Western Celestial Mountain was not a fool. Guanyin of the South Sea had not returned for a long time, which would definitely attract the attention of the Celestial Court. If a sky full of Buddhas came to Heavenspan Ridge, it would be an extremely terrifying calamity. Buzz! The void trembled and ripples spread. Just as the 10 demon kings were slightly dispirited, an illusory figure quietly appeared in the void. When the light dissipated, Yi Xian's figure appeared. Big brother! The 10 demon kings perked up and bowed to Yi Xian. However, when they sensed Yi Xian's aura, a look of surprise flashed across their eyes. There was no lingering immortal light, nor was there any demonic light. In the eyes of the 10 demon kings, their big brother seemed to have turned into immortal. There was not the slightest ripple around him. What surprised the 10 demon kings the most was that Yi Xian gave them the feeling that he was out of this world. They could not sense any aura at all. If Yi Xian had not appeared in front of them, the 10 demon kings were very sure that they would not have sensed Yi Xian's existence at all. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes, and his voice was cold as he said, "Pass down the order. From the north to the south, regardless of the major demon forces, kill all of them. Leave no one alive." Upon hearing Yi Xian's words, the 10 demon kings trembled. They had never expected Yi Xian to issue such an order. Wouldn't this cause an earth-shattering upheaval in the entire North Continent? The sky-swallowing toad was about to ask for the reason, but when it saw Yi Xian's cold gaze, it swallowed the words it had prepared. Then, without any nonsense, it immediately carried out Yi Xian's orders. "Boys, from the north to the south, kill all of them, no matter who they are." As the sky-swallowing toad's voice reverberated in all directions, countless demons roared excitedly. Demonic clouds covered the sky, and the demonic drum of slaughter beat. That terrifying and ferocious aura wreaked havoc in the sky, carrying with it the howling battle cries of the heavens and the earth. Demons were bloodthirsty and fed on blood. This was a truth that had never changed. This also made the eyes of all the demons in the Tongtian Ridge turn red. They were like locusts that could destroy everything. Everywhere they passed, there was a sea of blood and floating corpses. Yi Xian was dressed in black. His hair fluttered in the wind. The Daluo golden core in his sea of consciousness was round and flawless. It had already become the size of a pigeon's egg. It was also humming and rotating, releasing an unfathomable aura. Roar! The demons were roaring, and the flood dragons were roaring. Yi Xian sat cross-legged in the black ancient war chariot. The 10 demon kings accompanied him on both sides. Everywhere the army of demons passed, the sky was filled with a bloody mist. All living things were exterminated. Yi Xian sat cross-legged in the black ancient war chariot. There were no fluctuations at all. However, a huge blood-colored array was rumbling as it activated. All the dead living things were sucked into the blood-colored array. The 10 demon kings secretly peeked at Yi Xian from the corners of their eyes. Their eyes were filled with horror. They didn't know what Yi Xian was doing, but every time a force was destroyed, millions of bloody souls would be sucked into the array. This made the aura around Yi Xian increasingly strange and sinister. Chapter 450. In the Black Ancient War Chariot, Yi Xian's face was distorted. He formed a seal with both hands, and a strange fluctuation spread out, causing the blood-colored array to rumble and rotate. Strange blood light poured down, which was constantly devoured by Yi Xian, massacring the North Continent, stirring up the world, killing countless living beings, and devouring their cultivation Dao fruits. This was what Yi Xian was doing at the moment. In fact, Yi Xian wanted to take it slow, but he really didn't have time. Guanyin of the South Sea had been killed, and the Western Spirit Mountain would get the news sooner or later. If he didn't step into the Zenith Heaven realm, he would face the thunderous fury of the Western Spirit Mountain. This was not an outcome he wanted to encounter. Although there was no 9th Daluo Jingxian for Yi Xian to devour, the demons in the North Continent were rampant, and it was also the largest slaughterhouse in the world. He could only use quantity to make up for quality. The Tribulation Transcender technique continued to operate, and the blood-colored array destroyed everything. Demon cave residences were destroyed, and countless living beings were killed. Their cultivation Dao fruits were absorbed into the blood-colored array, and it also made Yi Xian's Zenith Heaven Golden Core in his Sea of Consciousness step towards greater mastery. 10 years, a full 10 years had passed. The North Continent was filled with whales. Countless ferocious demon forces had disappeared. The withered land was littered with countless bones. Even the rivers, lakes, and seas were stained with demonic blood. The thick smell of blood filled the air. Big Brother, the cave of fallen demons has been completely destroyed. This is already the 38th place of demons that we have killed. At this moment, our men have suffered heavy casualties. Why don't we rest for 3 years? The sky-devouring toad was bathed in blood as it appeared beside Yi Xian. He had just killed the demon king of the Cave of Fallen Demons, who was also an all-heaven golden immortal. Although he had killed him, he had consumed a lot of demon power. This also made him persuade Yi Xian. That's right, Big Brother. If this goes on, the Tongtian Ridge will suffer heavy casualties before we can conquer the entire North Continent, Queen Qingqiu said with a slight frown. As the 2 Archfiend Kings consoled Yi Xian, the rest of the Archfiend Kings also spoke up. They hoped that Yi Xian would temporarily stop attacking and allow them to rest and recuperate for a while. It was no wonder that the demon monarchs were in such a state. One had to know that they had been fighting nonstop for the past 10 years. Even though they were all heaven demon monarchs, they still felt extremely exhausted. Moreover, the fiendish demons under their command had suffered heavy casualties. If this continued, before the Tongtian Ridge could dominate the North Continent, the countless fiendish demons under their command would all be burned to ashes. Unfortunately, Yi Xian's expression remained unchanged in the face of the pleas of the 10 Archfiend Kings, as if he hadn't heard them at all. However, when Yi Xian opened and closed his eyes, they were full of anxiety and solemnity. In the past 10 years, under the effect of the Tribulation Transcender technique, Yi Xian had absorbed and devoured countless fiendish demon cultivation Dao fruits. There were hundreds of millions of them, and 38 of them were all heaven realm demon monarchs. Logically speaking, even 38 all-heaven demon monarchs were equivalent to 1 Daluo Jingxian, let alone hundreds of millions of small demons. They could completely make the Zenith Heaven Golden Core reach the greater mastery stage. However, what made Yi Xian's heart heavy was that even after devouring so many cultivation Dao fruits, his Zenith Heaven Golden Core still hadn't reached the greater mastery stage. This made Yi Xian finally understand that there was something wrong with his calculations. According to Yi Xian's estimation, the 9 Revolutions Zenith Heaven technique would allow him to reach the Daluo Jingxian realm after devouring 9 Zenith Heavens. However, The cultivation required for this last step had reached an unimaginable level. It wasn't something that one Daluo Jingxian could satisfy. Kill, endless slaughter, devour, and frantically devour. Yi Xian could feel that the Zenith Heaven Golden Core was moving towards the greater mastery stage bit by bit. This was also a blessing in disguise. Yi Xian knew that he couldn't stop at all, so he could only cultivate the Zenith Heaven Golden Core to the greater mastery stage in one go. 9 revolutions Zenith Heaven, 9 revolutions of the Zenith Heaven. Yi Xian finally understood that the cultivation Dao fruit required for the 9th revolution was the sum of the first 8 revolutions. This was the true essence of the 9 revolutions Zenith Heaven technique. Continue forward. If you flee before the battle, die. The 6 desires were emotionless, and the world was heartless. For the sake of his cultivation, Yi Xian had no so-called mercy. Even if all the demons in the Tongtian Ridge had to die in battle, he had to devour enough energy to reach the Daluo Jingxian realm in one go. Looking at the sinister and terrifying killing intent surrounding Yi Xian, the 10 demon kings' expressions changed slightly. They exchanged glances with each other, their eyes filled with helplessness. Pass on my orders. Advance with the army and kill them all. The sky-devouring toad said coldly. He took a step forward as the vanguard, leading countless demons towards the next fearsome demonic force. The other 9 demon kings didn't dare to tarry, and led their armies forward. Not far at all. Just a little more, and the Zenith Heaven Golden Core will be complete. In the black ancient war chariot, Yi Xian's face was contorted, making him look even more sinister and terrifying. His hands moved endlessly as streaks of black runes spread out, incessantly channeling the blood-colored formation to devour the blood-soul essence qi in a frenzy. At this moment, Yi Xian had already sunk into paranoia. His eyes had turned dark and terrifying. The only thought in his mind was to reach the Zenith Heaven Golden Core. There was no other thought in his mind. He had endured for more than 1,000 years. He really didn't want to continue enduring. He was just one step away. How could he give up now? The North Continent was in chaos, and all the demons were terrified. The Tongtian Ridge swept through all the major forces in the North Continent. Countless demon kings of the Tongtian continent had died tragically. This made all the major forces feel insecure, and they were extremely fearful of Yi Xian. As the saying went, if one didn't erupt in silence, one would perish in silence. No one was willing to sit and wait for death. No one was willing to wait for Yi Xian to kill his way to their doorstep. When the Tongtian Ridge's demon army destroyed the fallen fairy cave, the 72 caves of Mount Wu, and the 108 gates of Mount Ji, all the demons in the North Continent could no longer sit still. If one of the demons wasn't a match for Yi Xian, they could only join forces to fight against Yi Xian. This was also their last stand. Although the major forces were extremely fearful of Yi Xian, the North Continent was boundless, and there were many demon kings of the Great Luo Continent. This made the major forces plead for the demon kings of the Great Luo Continent to help. Unfortunately, these demon kings disappeared one after another. They didn't want to participate in this earth-shattering change in the North Continent. These demon kings of the Great Luo Continent weren't stupid. Mount Wu, the Fallen Fairy Cave, and the 108 Gates of Mount Ji were the dojos of 3 demon kings of the Great Luo Continent. However, they had all been destroyed by the Tongtian Ridge. This also meant that the 3 demon kings of the Great Luo Continent had already died tragically at Yi Xian's hands. If they attacked Yi Xian, wouldn't they be courting death? They wouldn't do such a stupid thing. They had already hidden in the ancient caves deep in the mountains, and the various demons couldn't find them at all. Of course, over the past 10 years, the demons of the Tongtian Ridge had also been wiped out. Only 10 million demons were left. The 10 demon kings had also suffered some injuries. Chapter 451. However, under Yi Xian's extreme pressure, the 10 monster kings could only lead their subordinates to continue the battle. Perhaps the massacre would only stop when the last of them died. 20 years later, the major forces of the ominous demons finally joined forces. They jointly sent an invitation to Yi Xian to have a life-and-death battle with Yi Xian, at the northern Meng Demon Mountain. Yi Xian naturally would not reject the invitation from the major forces of the ominous demons. This was something he was happy to see, as the Daluo golden core in his sea of consciousness was only a little bit away from attaining full mastery. As long as the forces of the ominous demons were annihilated, Yi Xian was extremely confident that he could attain full mastery of the Daluo golden core. At the same time, the North Continent was in chaos as a shocking massacre was set off. Such a huge commotion naturally attracted the attention of the three realms, and Kong Li's name spread throughout the three realms. In the bullfighting palace in the 33rd Celestial Court, the Jade Emperor had his hands behind his back, and his expression was uncertain. He was listening to Venus Taibai telling him something. Guanyin of the South Sea was killed by him, and the three monster kings died tragically in his hands. Even Shen Gongbao was defeated and had to retreat? The Jade Emperor's eyes froze, and his voice was filled with shock. Your Majesty, this Kong Li is too terrifying. Mahamayuri came personally, and even protected him. Even though Guanyin of the South Sea was killed by him, Mahamayuri did not care, and even allowed him to do so. Venus Taibai replied respectfully. What a Kong Li! I didn't expect such a person to appear in this world. The Jade Emperor shook his head and sighed. Do you think this person can be used by me? Suddenly, the Jade Emperor narrowed his eyes and looked at Venus Taibai. His voice was slightly low as he asked, Your Majesty, this Kong Li has great magical powers, and is even protected by Mahamayuri. I'm afraid. Venus Taibai did not react to the Jade Emperor's stare. Instead, he answered in a slightly troubled manner. The Jade Emperor scrutinized Venus Taibai for more than 10 breaths, before he slowly retracted his gaze. Then he nodded and said, You're right. Let's not talk about Mahamayuri. Just based on Kong Li's ability to kill Guanyin, he won't be below me. Since Kong Li has the protection of Mahamayuri, he is not someone the Celestial Court can handle. Let Duobao Rulai from the west have a headache. Jinxing, you've worked hard in the lower realm this time. This is a Yulua pill. It should be able to increase your cultivation. The Jade Emperor spoke gently. He tossed a pill that was glowing with golden light to Venus Taibai, who received it respectfully. He bowed to the Jade Emperor and said, To be able to work for your Majesty, the old minister does not dare to claim credit. Yes. The Jade Emperor nodded in satisfaction. He smiled and said, Venus has worked hard and made great contributions. You are my loyal subject. I know what to do. You may leave. Old minister, farewell. Venus Taibai bowed and walked out of the bullfighting palace. As Venus Taibai left, the Jade Emperor's smile disappeared. He frowned as he looked at Venus Taibai's back. There was even a hint of doubt in his eyes. For some reason, the Jade Emperor had a strange feeling when he saw Venus Taibai today. It was as if Venus Taibai had changed. However, no matter how he observed this person, he could not find the reason. This feeling made the Jade Emperor a little absent-minded. After dozens of breaths, the Jade Emperor smiled. It seemed that he was too suspicious. Venus Taibai had followed him for countless years. How could there be a problem? Outside the bullfighting palace, Venus Taibai's face was pale. He quietly wiped away the cold sweat on his forehead. The conversation with the Jade Emperor just now made him nervous. He almost exposed himself. Fortunately, he was very shrewd. He did not expose himself in front of the Jade Emperor. This also made Venus Taibai breathe a sigh of relief. He quickly returned to his training ground. In fact, ever since Venus Taibai returned to the Celestial Court, he tried to break Yi Xian's seal. However, after flipping through countless books and asking many of his friends, Venus Taibai helplessly realized that the seal in his sea of consciousness could not be broken at all. Just as the East Emperor said, this so-called departed soul attraction could not be broken even by a Grand Luo. Only the East Emperor himself could break it. When Venus Taibai discovered this fact, he was also very helpless. He finally gave up and could only work for Yi Xian. Fortunately, the Jade Emperor did not find out about his betrayal. He also exchanged information with Shen Gongbao. This allowed him to be free in the Celestial Court for the time being. He did not have to worry about his life. However, Venus Taibai also knew that he would not be free for long. When Yi Xian returned to the celestial court, the entire celestial court would be in chaos. Spirited Mountain in the west. Duobao Rilai sat cross-legged on a golden lotus. The 3,000 truths were chanting sutras. Bodhisattvas and Buddhas were everywhere. A vast Buddhist aura reverberated in Spirited Mountain. Buzz! Suddenly, a golden light shot over from the horizon and appeared in Duobao Rilai's palm. The golden immortal blood stained the Buddha's golden alms bowl. Immediately, the peaceful aura of Spirited Mountain was stifled. The chanting that filled the sky came to an abrupt end. Amipa! Duobao Rilai put his palms together. His voice was compassionate, but the light of Buddha around him was blazing. It was obvious that Duobao Rilai was not calm. Guanyin has fallen in the lower realm. This is the pain of Spirited Mountain, and my responsibility. Duobao Rilai's voice was so loud that the entire Spirited Mountain rumbled. The expressions of the Buddhas changed. They chanted Buddhist names and recited the Rebirth Sutra. It was as if they were helping Guanyin of the South Sea transcend. In the past, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva made a great vow that he would not become a Buddha until hell was empty. Today, Guanyin came to the lower realm to subdue a demon. However, she was killed by a demon from the lower realm. If I let this demon run amok, how can I face Guanyin's compassionate Buddhist heart? Duobao Rilai's voice was like heaven and earth. The 9th grade golden lotus buzzed, and the light of Buddha bloomed around him. Under the shocked gazes of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Duobao Rilai stood up from the 9th grade golden lotus. This caused the entire Spirited Mountain to rumble and shake. When the Buddha was angry, the 3 realms would be in turmoil. This was not just a saying. Duobao Rilai was the lord of Spirited Mountain in the west. Other than subduing the lawless monkey during the journey to the west's minor calamity, Duobao Rilai had never left the Eternal Tempest Temple. Now that the Buddha was angry and the 9th grade golden lotus was in turmoil, it was obvious that the Buddha was going to come down personally to subdue the demon. How could the Buddhas not be shocked? Duobao Rilai was at the peak of grand heavenly realm. He was a revered figure in the world. No one could imagine how terrifying he was. He was also someone who possessed unparalleled supernatural powers. Amitabha! The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas called out to Duobao Rilai. Amidst the light of Buddha, Duobao Rilai had a compassionate expression. The 9th grade golden lotus under him swayed, and the space around him was distorted. It was as if he was going to leave Spirited Mountain in the next moment and head to the North Continent to subdue the demon himself. Suddenly, before Duobao Rilai could leave Spirited Mountain, a scornful laughter echoed in the great Thunderclap Temple. It caused Duobao Rilai to be stunned. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the sky were stunned. Chapter 452. Old Man Duobao, are you trying to kill someone from my clan? Rumble. The sky exploded apart while space warped. A mighty figure strode through the sky. 5-colored divine light shot through the heavens and the earth, and an extremely terrifying and ferocious aura pressed down towards Mount Numinous in the west. Buzz! Time seemed to stop and space seemed to be frozen. When the golden light dissipated, Kong Xian stood in the Tempest Temple and faintly blocked Duobao Rilai's path. Mahamayuri. Buddhas chanted sutras, Bodhisattvas bowed and chanted sutras. Clearly, Kong Xian's power was so strong that even the Buddhas in the sky had to bow to him like a disciple. Mahamayuri. Although Kong Li is your clansman, his crime of killing Guanyin is unforgivable. I hope Mahamayuri can be reasonable and stop pestering me. Duobao Rilai said with compassion. The Buddha light of exorcism distorted the heavens and the earth, and seemed to have disturbed the laws of space-time. He did not back down because of Kong Xian's arrival. Although Kong Xian was strong, Duobao Rilai was also a powerful figure. Naturally, he was not afraid of Kong Xian. Duobao, don't pretend to be compassionate. I know very well what kind of person you are. Have you asked for my permission before you want to kill the younger generation of my clan? His roar shattered the heavens and the earth, and destroyed the mountains and rivers. Kong Xian's eyes were sinister. The 5-colored divine light soared into the sky, and the sound shook the universe. The terrifying power was simply unimaginable. Although Kong Xian was also a figure of the 3rd watershed of the grand heavenly realm, He knew that his cultivation was several levels lower than Duobao Rulai's. However, the gap was not insurmountable. Naturally, he would not back down in front of Duobao Rulai. Mahamayuri, are you trying to start a war with me here? Duobao Rulai's compassion was no longer there. He directly revealed his original form of an angry Vajra. The surrounding space-time was extremely distorted. Obviously, his heart was burning with rage. You want to kill the younger generation of my clan? Even if you are a quasi-saint, you have to go through me first, let alone the Lord of Spirited Mountain. Kong Xian sneered. Amitba. Mahamayuri, since you can't tell right from wrong, I'd like to see how much you've grown after such a long time. Duobao Rulai chanted the name of Buddha, and the Buddha's golden alms bowl emitted a terrifying Buddha light. It was obvious that he was really angry and wanted to fight Kong Xian. Haha. Kong Xian laughed wildly. His voice shook the heavens and the earth as he said, Old man Duobao, do you really think that I Kong Xian am afraid of you? Rumble. The five-colored divine light shook the heavens and the earth, and the vast spirit mountain shook violently. Under the horrified gazes of the Buddhas all over the sky, Kong Xian shook his body and directly revealed the true form of the five-colored peacock. The power that shook the heavens and the earth seemed to be about to collapse this part of the world. Kong Xian was the first peacock since the creation of the world. His innate magical ability, the five-colored divine light, could wipe out everything. When he revealed his cultivation as a Tongtian, even the Buddha's golden alms bowl in Duobao Rulai's hand dimmed. There were too many spiritual treasures in the three realms of heaven, earth, and man, and the power they contained was all different. However, everything in the world reinforced and restrained each other. Apart from the Tree of Seven Wonders in the hands of Taoist Kundi, one of the two Western sages, which could wipe out all the spiritual treasures in the world, only Kong Xian's five-colored divine light had such terrifying power. Even if Duobao Rulai faced Kong Xian, the Buddha's golden alms bowl would not be of much use. The only thing he could use to fight against Kong Xian was his own great magical ability and terrifying cultivation. The two respected figures confronted each other in the void. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas all over the sky gradually retreated. No one dared to say anything to persuade them, because they were simply unable to participate in a battle of this level. Amitba. Suddenly, without waiting for the two of them to start fighting, a Buddhist chant surrounded Spirited Mountain. An old monk walked out of nothingness. His face was haggard and his body was thin, as if he had entered the twilight years of his life. However, the green lamp in his hand made the entire Spirited Mountain bathed in a peaceful atmosphere. Greetings, ancient Buddha Dipankara. The Buddhas all over the sky were shocked. They did not expect the ancient Buddha Dipankara, who had not appeared in the world for a long time, to be alarmed. This made them all pay their respects. Ancient Buddha. Duobao Rulai put his palms together as a form of greeting to Dipankara. Dipankara? Kong Xian frowned as a tinge of fear flashed across his eyes. Clearly, this ancient Buddha Dipankara was more difficult to deal with than Duobao Rulai. He did not know why this person had appeared at this time. The immeasurable calamity has begun. The Spirit Mountain of the West was founded by two sages. If a civil war breaks out now and causes the sages to punish us, wouldn't it be our fault? Dipankara said sympathetically, trying to persuade the two of them. Ancient Buddha, the descendant of Wisdom King, descended to the lower realm as a demon and harmed Guanyin. If we don't eliminate her, won't the Great Lane Temple become a joke in the three realms? Duobao Rulai said calmly. Amitba. Dipankara put his palms together and chanted. The five-colored peacock was born from heaven and earth. Guanyin's tribulation is also her destiny. The Great Lane Temple of Spirit Mountain is merciful. It would be too heartless to kill her. Why don't we send a Buddha to enlighten her? This can also dissolve the karma and resentment. Ancient Buddha, you are right. But I wonder who is suitable to go. Duobao Rulai put his palms together. Haha. Suddenly a laugh was heard. A ray of Buddha light rose from inside Spirit Mountain. A big-bellied Buddha walked out, startling Duobao Rulai and Kong Xian. Maitreya Buddha? Kong Xian whispered. Although Kong Xian likes to kill, let me enlighten him. Wisdom King, You can rest assured that I will not harm his life. Maitreya Buddha nodded and smiled. Since the ancient Buddha has already made up his mind, I will follow your wishes and let Maitreya enlighten Kongli. Duo Bao Rilai put his palms together and sat cross-legged on the 9th grade golden lotus again. Wisdom King, what do you mean? Dipankara asked in a hoarse voice. Since the ancient Buddha has spoken, I will naturally give you face. But I will say this. If Kongli dies for no reason, don't blame me for overturning Spirit Mountain. Even if the two sages are here, they can't stop me. Kong Xian returned to his human form and floated away on a golden cloud. It was obvious that with the appearance of the ancient Buddha Dipankara, even if he wanted to protect Yi Xian for a period of time, he could only do so much. As for the rest of the path, Yi Xian would have to rely on himself. Demonic clouds filled the sky in the North Continent. The demon mountain of the northern Mang pierced the clouds. It was an ancient Tongtian mountain in the North Continent. It was said that it was a demon mountain that had been passed down since the primeval age. It had nurtured many great demons of the Tongtian race. Today, countless demons had gathered at the northern Mang demon mountain, so many that one couldn't see the end of it. Hundreds of demon kings sat cross-legged on the mountain peak, and their demonic light that shook the heavens and earth soared into the sky. It's here! A piercing sky demon king roared coldly. He raised his head and stared at the horizon. A demonic cloud that blotted out the sky was rolling over, and the howls of countless demons could be heard echoing in the sky. Chapter 453. Dark clouds covered the sky, and endless demonic roars could be heard. 9 dragons pulled the black ancient war chariot and roared in the sky. The 10 demon kings rode on both sides of the war chariot. Only Yi Xian sat in the war chariot and looked down at the demon kings. The sky and the earth stared at each other. However, the world was strangely silent. Murderous intent and killing intent surged into the heavens in all directions. Clearly, both sides knew that this was a battle that would not end until one side died. Kongli, as the saying goes, where it is possible to let people off, one should spare them. We admit that we are no match for you, and we are more than willing to serve you as the master of the North Continent. As long as you retreat now, from now on, all the major demon forces will respect your Tongtian Ridge. The king of the northern Mang roared. This was their last concession. As long as Yi Xian was willing to stop, they could even submit to Yi Xian. There were hundreds of millions of demons in the mountain, and hundreds of demon kings were silent. However, everyone looked nervous because they did not want to fight to the death with Yi Xian. In the sky, there were no ripples. Yi Xian sat in the black ancient war chariot, as if he did not hear the king of the northern Mang's request. He slowly raised his arm, and when he opened and closed his eyes, there was a blood-red glow. Obviously, when Yi Xian's arm fell, the hundreds of millions of demons in the Tongtian Ridge would go on a killing spree, turning this boundless sea of blood into a living hell. Big brother, let's stop. Our men have already suffered heavy casualties. If we really start this war, the Tongtian Ridge will cease to exist, the sky-swallowing toad advised with a trembling voice. Big brother, although I don't know what you are trying to do, the Tongtian Ridge is our foundation. If all our men die here, won't we become isolated? King Qing Qiu advised earnestly. As the 2 demon kings spoke, the other demon kings also spoke. However, the 10 demon kings were helpless because Yi Xian did not move. The murderous aura around him was getting stronger. What kind of joke was this? The great Luo Jindan was about to be completed. Not to mention sacrificing the demons of the entire Tongtian Ridge. Even if he had to destroy the entire North Continent, Yi Xian wouldn't hesitate. Kill! No one could defy Yi Xian's will. When his arm fell, his cold and emotionless voice echoed in the ears of the 10 demon kings. Rumble! The 10 monster kings gritted their teeth, as they knew that they could not go against Yi Xian's will. Demonic lights burst out from their bodies as they let out extremely terrifying demonic roars. They led the tens of millions of demons from the Tongtian Ridge and charged towards the northern Mang Mountain. Everyone, today is our last stand. Even if we fall here, we will bury the Tongtian Ridge with us. The Northern Mang King let out a furious roar as his demonic arts condensed. He took the lead and charged towards the sky-devouring toad. The other hundreds of demon kings charged towards the other 9 demon kings in a frenzy. Kill! Die! I'll eat you! The demons roared as heaven and earth were in chaos. Countless demons fought with each other, as all kinds of demonic arts filled the sky. Although the hundreds of demon kings were mixed, with some being in the all-heaven realm, and some being in the grand unity realm, they had the advantage in numbers and brought great pressure to the sky-devouring toad and the others. Demon blood filled the sky as mournful cries filled the sky. This was a world of blood and bones, a slaughterhouse of demons. Look at the mountains that were stained with blood. The earth was broken, the mountains and rivers were shattered, and demon blood was splattering everywhere. A scene of a sea of blood was presented between heaven and earth. Rumble! In the black ancient war chariot, Yi Xian slowly stood up. He took a step forward and stood in the sky. The blood-red formation above his head was buzzing as it rotated. It was like a millstone that could destroy the world, releasing an aura that could obliterate all living things. Rotate! Yi Xian's eyes were blood-red, and his face was twisted and ferocious. The blood-red formation rumbled as it rotated. Rays of blood-red light were sucked into the blood-red formation, and extremely pure energy poured into Yi Xian's head. Tens of millions of demons as soldiers, 10 demon kings as generals kill immortals, gods, Buddhas, and demons. Yi Xian's black hair fluttered wildly as he fell into a frenzy. His hands formed the Tribulation Transcender technique, as he frantically absorbed the cultivation power of the dead demons. The zenith golden core in his sea of consciousness became more and more round at this moment. Corpses floated in the sea of blood as heaven and earth mourned. Tens of millions of demons in the Tongtian mountain range died, tragically one by one in the northern Mang mountain range. The 10 demon kings were covered in blood, and their bodies were cracked. It was obvious that they would fall here soon. The various major demon forces had gathered hundreds of millions of demons and hundreds of demon kings. How could the 10 demon kings be their match? Retreat! The sky-swallowing toad roared crazily. He was blasted by the Northern Mang King's demonic technique until he spat out a mouthful of blood. Using this force, he quickly retreated to Yi Xian's side. The other 9 demon kings joined forces and finally opened a gap in the encirclement of hundreds of demon kings. They returned to Yi Xian's side in an extremely sorry state. At this moment, Yi Xian sat cross-legged in the sky as the blood-red formation buzzed above his head. The aura around his body was dark and unclear, but it made people feel a sense of fear at a glance. The sky-swallowing toad bowed and said, "Big brother, we've done our best. You all can leave." The 10 demon kings were all seriously injured, but this did not affect Yi Xian in the slightest. In fact, he could directly take action, and the tens of millions of demons in the Tongtian mountain range wouldn't have to die. However, Yi Xian had his own thoughts. Firstly, although Yi Xian's cultivation was at the Tongtian mountain range, he couldn't possibly take action for everything. Otherwise, what was the use of having these subordinates? Secondly, and also the most crucial point, Yi Xian didn't care about the lives of the demons in the Tongtian mountain range. Every time a demon died, he would devour them all. This way, he could increase the speed of his devouring. Chi, chi, chi. Hundreds of demon kings arrived in an instant and maintained a distance of 10,000 miles from Yi Xian. The billions of demons in the northern Mang mountain range roared furiously at this moment. The sky was filled with boundless demonic light, and a murderous aura swept towards Yi Xian. Kongli, now that the Tongtian mountain range has been destroyed, and the 10 demon kings are seriously injured, even if you are a Grand Luo demon king, you are no match for us. Why don't you surrender now? The northern Mang king growled in a low voice, but his eyes were filled with extreme fear as he looked at Yi Xian. Yi Xian, if you had retreated just now, we wouldn't have made things difficult for you. However, you don't have the chance now. The moving mountains king's eyes were bloodshot, and his eyes were filled with hatred as he looked at Yi Xian. As the 2 demon kings spoke, earth-shattering roars could be heard. Every demon king looked at Yi Xian with a terrifying murderous aura. This was because in the past 20 years, they could be said to have been in hiding. Who knew how many demons had died in the hands of Yi Xian? How could they not be furious? Noisy. Suddenly, amidst the roars of the demons, Yi Xian's cold and emotionless voice exploded in the sky. Instantly, the demons stopped breathing. They didn't expect Yi Xian to still be so pretentious at this moment. Everyone, let's kill him together. It was unknown which demon king growled, but hundreds of demon kings quickly surrounded Yi Xian. All kinds of demonic techniques were condensed, as if they were going to kill Yi Xian in the next moment. Chapter 454. A cruel and hideous smile appeared on the corners of Yi Xian's mouth. He slowly stretched his arms and took a deep breath under the astonished gazes of the group of demons. An intoxicated expression appeared on his face. How long has it been? 3,000 years, right? A total of 3,000 years. Yi Xian looked up at the sky without saying a word. His voice was deep and ancient, and when his eyes opened and closed, they seemed to be as accurate as the stars in the universe. Rumble. The boundless sky gradually darkened. The strong winds in the world roared like ferocious beasts. The blood-red formation covered the sky and the earth. The rays of blood-red light were like a group of stars falling into the mortal world, completely sealing the world for thousands of miles. Crack. The blood-red lightning pierced through the sky. The strand of immortal light shook the ages. Yi Xian's body was glowing. It was an extreme golden light. However, this golden light was mixed with a wisp of dark mist, making him look mysterious and strange. 3,000 years of tossing and turning. 3,000 years of killing. A sea of blood floated and corpses covered the ground. All for the sake of ascending to the 9 heavens. All for the sake of not being inferior to others. The sea moves horizontally. Time changes. I've waited for this day for a very, very long time. The vicissitudes of life were lonely. The world was heartless. Yi Xian's bitter voice reverberated in all directions. It made the blood-red formation that covered the sky rumble and rotate. The murderous intent that could overturn the ages slowly bloomed. Thump, thump, thump. It was as if chaotic divine thunder was exploding. It was as if the world was shaking. Yi Xian's glabella was glowing. The Daoyuo golden core was buzzing and rotating. Rays of golden light spread out from the Daoyuo golden core, revealing images in the void. Illusory flowers, void bubbles. These images were Yi Xian's former memories. They recorded the ups and downs he had experienced along the way. Pop. The first image. In the human realm, 14-year-old Yi Xian was tormented by his illness. He waited for death to descend upon Heartbreak Mountain. He had no family or friends by his side. His eyes were only filled with the sorrow and despair of a mortal. The second scene was an ocean of blood and a boundless slaughter. Under the ferocious whipping of Yuan Ling, he dragged his thin and weak body as he fought desperately with the blood-soul cosmos beasts. And the aura of death in his entire body was dense and desolate. In the third scene, he rose up in the battlefield of the Sea of Blood. Beneath his feet was a mountain of corpses and bones. The gentleness and kindness of his youth had long since been tossed aside. In the third image, he ran amok in the mortal world, created the supreme underworld, and became an immortal in the mortal world of the age of Dharma. He had met Gu Xiaoxiao, a kind woman. He had also fallen into madness because of the bonds of kinship. He had even cut off his kinship and put an end to his past. He had started a great battle with Yuan Ling in the Blood Sea battlefield. The fourth scene, the fifth scene, suppressing Flowerfruit Mountain, killing the war god of the 3 dimensions, Yang Jian, scheming against Taoist Yu Ding, and finally fighting the Jade Emperor in the Celestial Court. All of these scenes were revealed. Yi Xian had always been alone when he rose up from a lowly position and recovered from death. He had no one to accompany him all along the way. 3,000 years of time had passed, and his hands had been dyed red with blood a long time ago. He carried the resentment of countless living beings on his back, and even the water of the 9 heavens was unable to wash it away. However, Yi Xian didn't regret it, because this was his path. He had no family or friends by his side, and he only believed in the strength to sweep through the ages. Today, the golden core was completely round and flawless, and it was only a trace away from attaining perfection. Yi Xian's soul was being refined to the extreme. He knew that he was about to step into a completely new world, and he would have nothing to fear in the 3 dimensions from now onwards. Arg! Suddenly, Yi Xian roared towards the sky. The roar that pierced through the 3 dimensions caused the souls of those who heard it to tremble, and it even caused the endless sky to collapse. Just this roar alone had caused the space-time laws of this world to become chaotic. He's the Eastern Emperor. Run! Such a scene caused the Northern Mang Demon King to tremble and roar. When he saw the scenes in the sky, he immediately recognized Yi Xian's true identity. His eyes trembled, and he fled for his life towards the distance. Run! It wasn't just the Northern Mang Demon King. The hundreds of demon kings present all had ghastly pale faces. They executed all sorts of escape techniques, and fought to flee in all directions. The Eastern Emperor Yi Xian. His ferocious reputation was too terrifying. Everything he did shook the heavens and the earth. Although the demon kings didn't know why Yi Xian wanted to transform into Yi Xian, it was no longer important. They only wanted to flee from this place. Otherwise, they would definitely die at Yi Xian's hands. Merciless 6 desires, heartless heaven and earth tribulation. The Blood Sea Grand Array sealed the sky and trapped the earth. No one could escape from this place, and no one could survive. When Yi Xian's cold and emotionless voice echoed between heaven and earth, an extremely terrifying thing happened. The Blood Sea Grand Array rumbled and exploded. Yi Xian performed the Tribulation Transcender technique, and blood-colored immortal light gushed out, turning this world into a blood-colored world. Kill! Rumbled blood-red lightning bolts streaked across the sky as tens of millions of lightning bolts poured down. The Northern Mang Demon Mountain, within a radius of tens of millions of miles, violently exploded. Mountain after mountain was annihilated into dust, and countless demons exploded into blood mists. Miserable shrieks and howls resounded through the air. Chi-chi-chi. Streaks of bloody mist crisscrossed between heaven and earth. The so-called all-heaven demon kings were cut in half at the waist, and their souls were scattered under the bombardment of the blood-colored lightning. However, their cultivation bases and Dao fruits were all absorbed by the Blood Sea Grand Array. The demons were wailing, and all living beings were weeping. This was a world of blood. The mournful cries seemed to be able to shatter one's soul. Even the 18 levels of hell were not as terrifying as this scene before him. Blood, fresh blood, bleak and magnificent blood. Bones, white bones, white bones, white bones, white bones, white bones. The Northern Mang Demon Mountains that stretched for thousands of miles had turned into dust, and the land that was filled with scars was extremely ruined. However, after the countless demons and devils died tragically, their blood and bones floated in the sea of blood, and the dense smell of blood covered the sky and covered the earth. Slaughter, a slaughter that shocked both ancient and modern times. Blood, the blood of countless demons. When this scene of a sea of blood and a mountain of corpses appeared between heaven and earth, even the 10 great demon kings' teeth trembled violently. They were like a pile of mud in the void. They looked at Yi Xian with unprecedented fear in their eyes, and their faces were pale to the extreme. If they didn't know that Yi Xian wouldn't kill them, they would have already fled for their lives. Above the sky in the void, Yi Xian's face was twisted and ferocious. His hands were endless, and the Tribulation Transcender technique was still operating violently. Facing the monstrous slaughter he had created, he didn't have the slightest fluctuation. The world was dead silent and all things were silent. There were no more screams or cries of demons. Hundreds of demon kings were dead. Apart from the humming of the Blood Sea Grand Array, there was no other sound in this world. Tribulation. Suddenly, Yi Xian's eyes became fierce, and the Tribulation Transcender technique in his hands condensed. The Blood Sea Grand Array shone brightly, and a waterfall of the heavenly river poured into Yi Xian's head. Chapter 455. Boundless Heaven and Earth, Daoyuo 9 Transformations. Yi Xian sat cross-legged in the sky. His face was distorted with excitement, as he frantically refined this unimaginable power. The Daoyuo golden pellet, in his sea of consciousness, was also undergoing a terrifying transformation. Buzz! The all-heaven golden core was round and flawless, and it emanated blazing golden light. However, a wisp of darkness was growing within the all-heaven golden core, and it caused numerous cracks to appear on the all-heaven golden core, as if it was undergoing an extremely terrifying transformation. Amitabha. Suddenly, at this crucial moment, an immeasurable Buddhist chant resounded between heaven and earth. A Buddha suddenly appeared in the sky while stepping on auspicious clouds. This also caused the expressions of the 10 demon kings to change drastically. They instantly surrounded Yi Xian in the center and looked at the person who had arrived in horror. Maitreya Buddha? When he saw the person who had arrived, the sky-devouring toad let out a low roar in horror. Despair flashed across his eyes. As for the other demon kings, their hearts were also trembling. They did not expect the person from the west to be this mighty figure. The Maitreya Buddha was a mighty figure from the western spirited mountain. He had the ability to traverse the earth like the Tongtian. His most famous Buddhist technique was the heaven and earth. Although he could not be compared to Duobao Rulai and Mahamayuri, he was still a terrifying figure who was about to step into the third watershed of the Daluo realm. Amitabha Buddha, good indeed. The Maitreya Buddha's smile was no longer there. He spoke with pity because this world was too miserable. Billions of demons had died. Even a Buddha like him could not show any smile. I did not expect Kong Li to be the East Pole Emperor. You have committed such a heinous massacre. Are you not afraid of the heavenly Tao's reincarnation? The Maitreya Buddha put his palms together. Sky-devouring toad. Suddenly, Yi Xian's ferocious voice startled the sky-devouring toad. He quickly turned around to look at Yi Xian. However, when he saw Yi Xian's current appearance, he trembled silently. At this moment, Yi Xian's forehead was glowing. The Daluo golden pellet was cracking inch by inch. A wisp of black light poured out from the Daluo golden pellet and wrapped around Yi Xian's body. It was as if Yi Xian was undergoing an unimaginable transformation. One breath, one breath's one breath. I only need you to delay this baldy for one breath. Then, all of you must leave this place quickly. Yi Xian let out a low and sinister roar, because his aura had already been locked onto by the Maitreya Buddha. Moreover, the great Luo Jindan in his sea of consciousness had already reached large success, and was undergoing an unimaginable transformation. At this time, he couldn't fight the Maitreya Buddha at all. Don't worry, big brother. We will protect you even if we die. The sky-swallowing toad's voice was powerful and resonant. The other demon monarchs exchanged looks and saw the desperation in each other's eyes. It was not that these demon kings were loyal to Yi Xian. Instead, they were already in the same boat as Yi Xian. Back then, when Yi Xian killed Guanyin of the South Sea, Spirit Mountain would not let them off if they found out about this. Now they were known as Yi Xian's minions. They had slaughtered billions of lives. Even if they abandoned Yi Xian and fled this place today, Spirit Mountain would definitely kill them in the future. This was something that was set in stone. Now the 10 great demon kings only had one way to survive, and that was to protect Yi Xian. This was because they had finally realized that Yi Xian had started this shocking massacre in the North Continent to cultivate a heaven-defying technique. As long as Yi Xian could break through to the Daluo Jingxian, they would be able to survive under Yi Xian's protection. Kill. The sky-devouring toad let out a ferocious roar and unleashed its innate magical power. The other 9 demon kings did not dare to be careless. They took out all their trump cards and joined forces to attack the Maitreya Buddha. Amitabha. The Maitreya Buddha smiled and a merciful Buddha light rippled out. A Buddha palm that covered the sky condensed in the sky and fell directly on the 10 great demon kings. Bang! One hit. With just one hit, the White Deer King exploded into a cloud of blood and died tragically in the void. The Lionheart King's body cracked, and he spat out demon blood. Even his primordial spirit was destroyed and he died. The Great Rock King's arms were shattered, and he let out a sorrowful cry. Although he was not killed by the Maitreya Buddha's palm, he was severely injured and on the verge of death. He fell toward the boundless land. Let's go. The other demon kings did not have it easy either. Every one of them was severely injured. The sky-devouring toad's body cracked, and he did not even look at Yi Xian. He was the first to escape on a demon light. This was because Yi Xian had said that they only needed to buy Yi Xian a breath of time. Now that a breath of time had passed, even if they were willing to fight to the death for Yi Xian, they would only suffer unnecessary casualties. At this moment, escaping was the best choice. The 10 great demon kings either died or fled. This also caused the Maitreya Buddha to not chase after them, because these little demons weren't worth mentioning in his eyes. The only person he truly valued was Yi Xian. East Emperor, you have committed a monstrous massacre today. Previously, you killed Guanyin of the South Sea, and even pretended to be the descendant of Wisdom King. Today I can only subdue demons. The Maitreya Buddha smiled and walked slowly toward Yi Xian. However, he did not realize that the aura he had locked onto Yi Xian had already disappeared. Subdue demons? Yi Xian sneered and said, "What a pity. If you had attacked me directly when you came here, you might have been able to kill me. However, you were too arrogant. You actually thought that you could defeat me. This is your biggest miscalculation. Limitless universe, traceless heaven and earth. Rumble." Yi Xian roared ferociously. Black fog lingered around his body. The Daoyuo golden elixir in his sea of consciousness was already full of cracks. However, the aura gushing out of it was too strange. It caused Yi Xian to tear apart the space-time of this world, and suddenly disappear before the Maitreya Buddha's eyes. Freeze! The Maitreya Buddha's expression changed drastically. He slapped out with his Buddha palms, trying to freeze this world. However, what shocked him to the extreme was that his Buddhist great divine power was completely ineffective. He could not stop Yi Xian at all. Everything was silent, and the world was silent. The Maitreya Buddha's smile was no longer there. His face was extremely red, and a great humiliation flashed across his eyes. He never thought that Yi Xian would actually escape from under his nose. This was the greatest humiliation to him. How was he supposed to report back to the Dipankara Buddha? No, heaven and earth is my great divine power. It can't be ineffective even in the face of people in the same realm. This boy's aura is too strange. It seems that he is undergoing a great transformation. The Maitreya Buddha murmured. There was a touch of panic in his eyes. Just now, he felt the aura of Yi Xian, which made him feel extremely flustered. It was as if there was an unimaginable horror hidden in Yi Xian's body. This feeling made him extremely uneasy. Amitabha. The Maitreya Buddha chanted the Buddha's name in a low voice. He took a step forward, and a golden cloud rose under his feet. He directly returned to Spirit Mountain. He wanted to quickly tell the true identity of Yi Xian to the Gautama Buddha. As for what would happen next, the Gautama Buddha would decide. Fire, endless earth fire, magma, and geocentric magma. This was a fiery world. The terrifying geocentric magma was steaming. Even if a golden immortal of the highest heaven entered this place, he would be turned into ashes in an instant. This was the core of the earth. All living things could not enter this place. Even golden immortals would not be so bored as to come to the depths of the earth's core. This was because not only was there no spiritual chi here, but there was also no so-called blessed land. There was only the magma of the earth's core that could destroy all living things. Chapter 456. The fiery world was deathly silent. Only a slender figure was soaking in the magma of the earth's core. It was as if 10,000 swords had pierced through his heart. Yet it was also as if 10,000 ants were gnawing at his heart. An extremely painful roar came from Yi Xian's mouth. The space between his brows was shattering, and the great Luo gold core buzzed as it rotated, causing the magma in the earth's core to surge with waves of fire. Pain, extreme pain. This pain came not only from his body, but also from Yi Xian's soul, making him feel like he was better off dead than alive. His flesh seemed to be gnawed away by ants, and his bones seemed to be crawling with maggots. His so-called origin immortal body was cracking inch by inch, while the golden core in his sea of consciousness exploded with a boom. BZ. Time stopped and space distorted. It was as if the world had stopped moving at this moment. A heavy breathing sound came from Yi Xian's mouth. What was even stranger was that after the great Luo Jindan exploded, a small black and gold person sat cross-legged in Yi Xian's sea of consciousness. Although this small black and gold person was extremely illusory, it was a real existence. Mysterious inscriptions had been carved into the figure, and its appearance was 70% similar to Yi Xian's. Its body was currently exuding an unfathomable energy, And with Yi Xian's sea of consciousness as its center, this mysterious energy began to spread through Yi Xian's body. A cultivator who has experienced the vicissitudes of time, his fate bumpy and his words desolate. Illuminating thousands of mountains and rivers, a single thought turns flowers to sand. Like the morning bell and evening drum, like the scriptures of the primal chaos, this chanting seemed to come from the primal chaos to the three realms. Although it was almost inaudible, it clearly resounded in Yi Xian's ears. Yi Xian's face, twisted in pain, gradually calmed down. The origin immortal body began to heal in the lava of the earth's core. The figure in his sea of consciousness formed a mysterious spell, and strands of golden black light began to coil around Yi Xian. Bzz. The void was in chaos as ripples spread out. A strange thing happened. The summary space automatically opened as the bronze immortal scripture rippled out. The scripture page inscribed with the ancient bronze cauldron glowed, transforming into black scriptures that poured into Yi Xian's sea of consciousness. Clang! Suddenly, the heaven-punishing halberd, which had not moved for a long time, quietly appeared in Yi Xian's sea of consciousness. The black and gold halberd hummed and rotated around the little black and gold person, releasing an extremely joyful aura. At this moment, Yi Xian forgot everything. His consciousness was completely integrated into the tiny figure, but 4 words suddenly appeared in his soul. Indestructible primordial spirit. When these 4 words were imprinted into Yi Xian's soul, he suddenly understood something, and finally understood what kind of existence the little person in his sea of consciousness was. Pango opened the sky, and Hongjun imparted the Tao. Since the beginning of the world, all living beings in the 3 realms had souls, except for the shamans who did not have souls. Immortals also called their souls the primordial spirit. The primordial spirit was the foundation of an immortal. Even if they lost their physical body, they could rely on their primordial spirit to reconstruct it. However, their primordial spirits were extremely fragile and could not withstand any damage. The 9 revolutions Daoyuo technique seemed to allow Yi Xian's cultivation to step into the Daoyuo Jindan stage, but in truth, it was tempering his primordial spirit. This was also the path that one had to walk to prove one's Dao through strength, the origin immortal body, and the indestructible primordial spirit. When the 2 were combined into one, this was proof that Yi Xian had already stepped into the hall of proving one's Dao through strength. Moreover, this indestructible primordial spirit was indestructible and possessed unfathomable strength. For example, if Yi Xian's primordial spirit left his body, even if he was also a Daoyuo Jinxian, he would not be able to harm Yi Xian in the slightest. On the contrary, he would be killed by Yi Xian's indestructible primordial spirit. It was not in the material world or the void. All of Yi Xian's cultivation and Dao were condensed into the indestructible primordial spirit, allowing it to traverse the void and slay his enemies without leaving a trace. In truth, this was only a simple attack method of the indestructible primordial spirit. The true power of the indestructible primordial spirit lay in the fact that Yi Xian had finally stepped into the hall of proving one's Dao through strength. This was the most precious thing he had obtained. The combination of the origin immortal body and the indestructible primordial spirit was not as simple as 1 + 1. At this moment, Yi Xian had finally broken through to the first heavenly layer of the Daoyuo Jinxian. His body was filled with destructive power. However, Yi Xian's first heavenly layer was different from the other Daoyuo Jinxian. Yi Xian's first heavenly layer was equivalent to a terrifying character at the second watershed. If he could reach the tribulation transcender transformation, his combat strength would reach an unimaginable level. The most important problem was that when Yi Xian stepped into the golden immortal realm, and his indestructible primordial spirit was born, the heavenly extermination halberd underwent an inexplicable change under the influence of the indestructible primordial spirit. The power hidden within the heavenly extermination halberd could finally be used by Yi Xian. The heaven-punishing halberd was the #1 killing weapon of all time. This was not just for show. Not only did it contain shocking secrets, it also possessed unimaginable power. The origin immortal body glowed, and the indestructible primordial spirit buzzed. Wisps of dark mist enveloped Yi Xian until his body was completely obscured. A black and gold chrysalis stood in the magma of the earth's core. Brewing, settling, accumulating, comprehending. When Yi Xian broke out of his chrysalis, he would break out of his chrysalis and transform into a butterfly, reappearing in the three realms. However, at that time, Yi Xian would no longer be weak and would no longer be able to endure. His reappearance in the three realms would cause a boundless calamity. At the same time, outside the 33rd layer of heaven, within the roaming jade palace, a black-clothed Taoist sat cross-legged on a green lotus of chaos. A hint of palpitating fear suddenly appeared in his mind, causing him to open his eyes in shock. His 5 fingers rapidly formed seals as he divined the mysteries of heaven. After 3 full days, the black-clothed Taoist felt suffocated and fell silent. The mysteries of heaven are in chaos, and space-time is in reverse. This is no infinite calamity, but the calamity of darkness that will destroy the 3 realms. Tong Tian roared in shock. As one of the 3 pure ones, he possessed boundless powers and was undying and indestructible. As long as the world existed, he would be eternally immortal. But even a saint like Tong Tian was beginning to panic. This was proof of just how terrifying this calamity of darkness was. The rise of the Jie school. Tong Tian did his best to calm his mind as he once more began to calculate. However, the result left him slightly taken aback, and then his face flushed red. Yi Xian. Could it be Yi Xian? Tong Tian muttered to himself as he kept calculating Yi Xian's future. However, all he got was a fog. The mysteries of heaven could not be revealed at all. Interesting, it's really interesting. I can't deduce his past, and I can't see his future. Could it be that this child is the last saint? Tong Tian said solemnly. Jade Mirage Palace. Yuanshi Tianzuan sat cross-legged on the green lotus, as the aura of chaos lingered around him. He let out a long sigh, distorting space-time, as if he had a great burden on his mind. The mysteries of heaven are in chaos, and the calamity is coming. If Yi Xian is really the last saint in the world, won't my Chan school be burned to the ground, and even bear an unforgivable evil fruit? Yuanshi Tianzuan sighed, but a hint of unwillingness flashed across his chaotic eyes. I'm from the lineage of Pangu, one of the 3 pure ones. Even if you are really the last saint appointed by the heavenly axiom, you have to ask me, Yuanshi, if I agree to let you become a saint. Yuanshi Tianzuan murmured hoarsely. Chapter 457. 8 Visions Palace. An old man with white hair and a beard sat cross-legged in the void. A green ox lay beside him. Although the old man did not release any aura, he made people feel a great sense of awe when they looked at him. Ever since teacher Hongjun merged with the Tao and did not manifest between heaven and earth, my 2 junior brothers refused to admit defeat. This time, the great calamity has arrived. Even a saint can't avoid it. What should I do? Grand Dao Tianzuan was the leader of the 3 pure ones, and could become the first saint of the heavenly Tao after Hongjun. At this moment he frowned and let out a long sigh. Niwa Palace. An extremely beautiful woman sat cross-legged in the clouds, surrounded by the golden light of merit. She gave off a holy and proud aura, making people not dare to blaspheme her. Sigh. Is the 3 realms really coming to an end? Why would such a strange person appear in the world? If he is really the last saint, he should be grateful for the kindness of heaven and earth. Perhaps this dark calamity can also be eliminated. Goddess Niwa sighed and murmured. The golden light of merit rippled slightly, proving that she was not calm. Under the Bodhi tree, the 2 saints of the Western sect sat opposite each other, with a black chessboard in the middle. However, their benevolent smiles were no longer there. Their faces were full of solemnity. Yi Xian is an anomaly in the 3 realms. If he is really the last saint appointed by the heavenly Tao, it is better for the Western sect not to have any bad karma with him, Taoist Junti said softly. Everything depends on fate, and heaven and earth are impermanent. If he is really the saint appointed by the heavenly Tao, the 2 of us will personally go and apologize. If he is not, he can only fall in the 3 realms in the future. Jieyu sighed. In the 9th heaven, Auspicious clouds covered the sky. A Taoist in green sat cross-legged in the ninth heaven. Endless golden light bloomed around him. However, this part of the world was rumbling, as if it would be destroyed at any time. Yi Xian, my good disciple, I really didn't expect that you would be able to reach this step. The green-robed Taoist roared in a low voice. The chaotic light was in disorder, but it quickly calmed down. What a pity, what a pity. You cultivate the undying immortal scripture. You'll never be able to become a saint. Looks like 3 pure ones, and the others still think that you're a heavens-destined saint. How laughable. Even if I give you the last strand of primordial violet vapor, you won't be able to become a saint. The green-robed Taoist roared ferociously. His chaotic light beam shattered the void. Clearly his mind was in turmoil. That's good too. That's good too. Since you want to break free from the shackles of fate, Master will see how far you can go. Unless you can prove your Tao through strength and break free from this world, you will forever be under Master's control. The Taoist in indigo roared with laughter. The 9 heavens and earth shattered, and the Taoist in indigo disappeared into the clouds. In the lifespan of an immortal, 3,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. Perhaps it was a period of seclusion, or perhaps it was a visit to a friend. In the infinite lifespan of an immortal, 3,000 years was neither long nor short. The world had changed and time had changed. Many things could happen in 3,000 years, and some things could also fade away. However, these 3,000 years were an extremely important period for Yi Xian to break free from his cocoon and transform into a butterfly. In the Earth's core, the smell of smoke and sulfur filled the air. Fiery magma flowed slowly in the depths of the Earth's core, and a chrysalis flowed with the magma. Crack! Suddenly, a soft sound was heard. It was unusually crisp, like the sound of the Tao when the world was first created. It made one's soul tremble. Then something extremely shocking happened. The black and gold chrysalis glowed in the fiery magma. Spiderweb-like cracks appeared on its surface, and strands of golden light spewed out from within. Bang! Suddenly, a voice that could annihilate the heavens rang out. Endless waves of flames rose from the lava, causing the depths of the Earth's core to tremble violently. That wisp of golden light was too overwhelming and too terrifying. It spread out in all directions in an unstoppable manner. Rumble! The world turned upside down and space-time collapsed. An indescribably imposing figure walked out of the chrysalis. The blazing origin immortal light enveloped his body, and his jet-black hair seemed like the water of the 9 heavens. He gave off the impression that he could crush all things in the world. Space-time was in chaos, and the void was in turmoil. The chanting of sutras seemed to be transmitted from the chaos to the present world, causing one's mind to sway. Golden lotuses rose from the void, each of them shrouded in black mist, making them seem even more bizarre and divine. The origin immortal light dimmed, and the golden lotuses vanished. Yi Xian opened his eyes in a daze. As his eyes turned, he seemed to be recalling the memories of the past. Who am I? Yi Xian hoarsely muttered. However, his dazed eyes focused as the scenes of the past appeared in his mind. I remember now. My name is Yi Xian. I came from the mortal realm to the earth immortal world. I tried to break through to the origin immortal realm, but did I succeed? Yi Xian muttered to himself as he carefully savored his current state. The indestructible origin spirit sat cross-legged in his sea of consciousness. The origin immortal body was indestructible, and the all-heaven immortal force in his body had disappeared, transforming into a power that Yi Xian could not describe. Yi Xian calmly sensed this power in his body. When he circulated the immortal scripture, this power in his body exploded with a boom. It was as tyrannical and turbulent as an erupting volcano, and even more so like a river of chaos that howled through the world. Strong, very strong, so strong that even Yi Xian himself felt fear. Crack! Yi Xian clenched his fists slightly. The space-time around him was crushed by him, and the surrounding space was completely shattered. This also caused Yi Xian to be dazed on the ground, but his body could not stop trembling. This was a trembling of excitement, and an indescribable trembling. When Yi Xian sensed the power in his body, he was already intoxicated by it, deeply immersed in this supreme power. Come, Yi Xian suddenly woke up, as if he wanted to witness the truth. When he waved his hand, the space-time laws in this area were directly thrown into chaos, and the fire in the depths of the Earth's core vanished into nothingness. He had actually used his own strength to suppress the laws of the world for his own use. Using strength to prove one's Dao Daoyuo Jingxian. Is this the terrifying part of using strength to prove one's Dao? Yi Xian murmured emotionally. His face was extremely red, and he even had the urge to cry. As everyone knew, the Daoyuo Jingxian could only use the laws of the world to unleash great divine abilities, and could even borrow the power of the world for his own use. This was also the reason why the Daoyuo Jingxian surpassed the other immortals. However, Yi Xian was different from them. He walked the path of proving one's Dao through strength, and the so-called borrowing of the power of the world could not be reflected in his body. His every move suppressed the world, and it could be said that he forcibly seized the laws of the world for his own use. This was also the fundamental difference between Yi Xian and the other Daoyuo Jingxian. Yi Xian was very excited, very excited. After so many years, he had been cultivating as if he was treading on thin ice, deeply afraid that he would fall from this world if he made a mistake. The heavens did not let down those who persevered. He had finally stepped into the grand heavenly immortal realm, and possessed a cultivation that did not fear any great enemy. He could also truly stand proudly in this world. Chapter 458. Yi Xian tried his best to calm himself down. After a few dozen breaths, he finally regained his composure. At the core of the earth, fiery lava flowed. The smell of gunpowder and sulfur wafted in the air. Yi Xian did not feel the scorching aura that could burn everything. Yi Xian counted with his fingers. The surrounding space-time changed slightly. He calmed his heart, and felt how long he had spent breaking through to the zenith heavenly realm. 3,000 years? Yi Xian frowned. He did not expect that he would spend 3,000 years in the core of the earth, just to break through to the zenith heavenly realm. I'm 6,000 years old this year? Yi Xian muttered to himself. In the end, a self-deprecating expression appeared on his face. He did not expect that he had lived for 6,000 years unknowingly. This made Yi Xian feel like he was in a dream. I've been in seclusion for 3,000 years. I'm afraid the outside world has changed. Yi Xian put his hands behind his back and shook his head helplessly. He clearly remembered that before he went into seclusion, he had promised Kong Xian to fight in 100 years. However, he had spent 3,000 years in seclusion this time. This made him break his promise. Although Yi Xian was not a gentleman, he was not a despicable person either. He had never broken his promise. It was an accident that he had spent 3,000 years to break through to the Daoyuo Jingxian. He could only fight Kong Xian in the future. Dong! A lotus bloomed in the void and the space distorted. Yi Xian did not do anything. He just took a step and mysteriously disappeared into the depths of the Earth's core. Earth Immortal World North Continent. 3,000 years had passed, but the North Continent had not changed much. However, 3,000 years ago, Yi Xian had launched a shocking massacre and caused unimaginable damage to the evil forces in the North Continent. As the saying went, a general's success was built on thousands of bones. Without the billions of demons in the North Continent, Yi Xian would not have been able to reach the zenith heavenly realm in such a short time. The North Continent could be said to be Yi Xian's paradise. Yi Xian walked through the void. He stepped over mountains and rivers and crossed the North Sea. Along the way, he looked at the North Continent and saw everything in the world. The North Continent was still the same North Continent. Everywhere was filled with blood and slaughter. 3,000 years had passed, and more demon kings had appeared to occupy various places. Clearly, the North Continent was vast and boundless. Although Yi Xian had killed many demons, there were countless demons. How could he kill them all? Of course, if it were 3,000 years ago, Yi Xian would naturally kill and devour these demon kings. However, he was no longer the weak person he used to be. He had already stepped into the Daoyuo Jingxian realm, and was no longer interested in these demon kings. At the first level of the Golden Immortal stage, he had stepped into the palace of using his strength to prove his Dao. If the current Yi Xian wanted to raise his cultivation, devouring the All-Heaven Demon King was already a drop in the bucket. Perhaps only the great golden immortal would be able to slightly increase his cultivation. However, Yi Xian's zenith heavenly realm was different from others. He walked the path of becoming a sage through strength. Every time he advanced, he needed more than 10 times the cultivation level of an ordinary Daoyuo Jingxian. Of course, although the Tribulation Transcender technique was heaven-defying, it was not invincible. Although Yi Xian could still walk the same path and continue to search for Daoyuo Jingxian to kill and gradually increase his cultivation level, this path was too narrow. 9 transformations golden pills, 9,000-year-old peaches of immortality, innate spirit roots, myriad spirit herbs, ginseng fruits. There were too many good things in the 3 realms that could greatly increase Yi Xian's cultivation. In the past, Yi Xian was very weak. Although he coveted these things, he had no way to obtain them. But now he was no longer an ignorant person. He could definitely think about these spirit herbs. Of course, Yi Xian was not in a hurry now. He had reappeared after 3,000 years. So he must settle all the grievances of the past and seize the position of Celestial Emperor. This was what he wanted to do now. Tongtian Ridge, barren hills and unruly rivers, dry and desolate. Except for the 3 million miles long Kuishui River flowing slowly, there was no sound in the 10 million miles long Tongtian Ridge. Yi Xian walked through every inch of the Tongtian Ridge, but he did not find any trace of the 10 monster kings. Obviously, they were either dead or injured. When Yi Xian's identity was exposed, they went into hiding to avoid the pursuit of the spiritual mountain and the celestial court. He took a step forward, and the world became limitless. Yi Xian did not have the slightest reluctance. His whole body stepped into the void, turning into a golden light, and heading towards the Dongsheng Divine Continent. Dongsheng Divine Continent. Spiritual Mountain was a blessed land, and spiritual energy filled the sky. This was the birthplace of Taoism. Countless immortal sects stood here. And the ultimate goal of immortal cultivators was to pass the heavenly tribulation and become immortals. Huagua Mountain was barren and desolate. It was no longer as lively as it used to be. The so-called monster kings of the 72 caves were all gone. Except for a few small demons who had just gained sentience, there was not a single great demon left in the entire Huagua Mountain. 3,000 years had passed, and all the people and things related to Yi Xian had disappeared in the long river of time. When the Maitreya Buddha discovered his true body, it naturally attracted the attention of the spiritual mountain and the celestial court. They were constantly searching for Yi Xian's whereabouts. However, 3,000 years had passed, and Yi Xian had not appeared in the world. But the spiritual mountain and the celestial court had put the monster kings related to Yi Xian on the wanted list. This also made them go into hiding, quietly waiting for Yi Xian to appear. Dongsheng Divine Continent Celestial Capital. Celestial Capital was a famous place in the Dongsheng Divine Continent. It was the headquarters of the Celestial Sect of Celestial Capital. The sect leader was called Immortal Qinghua, and he was one of the immortals of the Celestial Court. Celestial Capital was extremely lively today. There were countless cultivators and immortals. The million-square-mile Celestial Capital was packed with people, and everywhere was filled with noise. It was not only the Celestial Capital that was so lively. All the major immortal sects in the Dongsheng Divine Continent were the same. This was because there was a grand event in the 3 realms that would be held in 3 years. This event was held once every 100,000 years. And it was also a grand event that everyone in the 3 realms knew about. The Feast of Peaches. Yes, it was the Feast of Peaches. Every 100,000 years, the Feast of Peaches would be held in the 3 realms. It was extremely grand, and was also a grand event in the 3 realms. The Feast of Peaches was hosted by the Jade Emperor and Queen Mother, the King of Hell, the Dragon Kings of the 4 seas, the mighty figures of the lower world, and all the famous mighty figures in the heavens and earth would participate in this Feast of Peaches. Everyone knew that although the Jade Emperor was the lord of the 3 realms, and was known as the co-ruler of the 3 realms, some mighty figures of the Tongtian did not take him seriously at all. There was even a saying that they only listened to the tune and did not listen to the announcement. This also made the Jade Emperor, the Lord of the Three Realms, an undeserved reputation. It could be said that he was a great joke. However, the Feast of Peaches was different. Other than the evil spirits, all the insignificant celestial immortals hoped to participate in the Feast of Peaches. Those mighty figures who did not take the Jade Emperor seriously would also go to the celestial court to participate in this event. Chapter 459. The reason was very simple. The Feast of Peaches of Immortality would have peaches of immortality of heaven and earth. The peaches of immortality ranged from 3,000 to 9,000 years old. One had to know that peaches of immortality of heaven and earth were spiritual herbs of heaven and earth. Consuming one of them could allow an immortal to advance by a whole level. Of course, not every immortal could participate in the Feast of Peaches, and not just anyone could taste a spirit herb like the Feast of Immortality. First, the Jade Emperor and Queen Mother of the Celestial Court had to send an invitation, such as the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas, the Celestial Court Immortals, and some minor immortals who had made contributions to the Celestial Court. Second, the various major powers, such as the Bodhisattvas and Buddhas of the Western Sacred Mountain, the 10 Yama Kings of the Underworld, and many Daluo Jinxian. Although there were only 2 requirements, the difficulty of these 2 requirements was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Anyone who stepped into the Daluo Jinxian, as long as they weren't demons, was naturally qualified to participate in the Feast of Peaches. However, there were very few people below the Golden Immortal level who could participate in the Feast of Peaches. The 3 realms was vast, and there were countless immortals. If anyone could participate in the Feast of Peaches, even the 33 layers of the Celestial Court wouldn't be able to accommodate them. Therefore, the Jade Emperor and Queen Mother of the Feast of Peaches would personally send an invitation to all immortals below the Daluo Immortal level. The reason the celestial capital was so lively today was that exalted immortal Qing Hua had received an invitation from the Celestial Court to participate in the 100,000-year Feast of Peaches in 3 years. Of course, most of the immortals who came to congratulate the Feast of Peaches were celestial immortals. Even Tai immortals were rare, and many of them were low-level cultivators. Exalted immortal Qing Hua was a grand unity arcane immortal and a member of the Celestial Court. When he received the news that he could participate in the Feast of Peaches, he naturally invited his friends to celebrate. Celestial Capital Dao Plaza. Thousands of limestone tables filled with all kinds of fine wine and spirit fruits were placed on them. Thousands of low-level immortals were toasting each other. Exalted immortal Qing Hua sat at the head of the table in the center, his face ruddy as he continuously toasted the guests. Fellow Taoists, you have all come from afar. This humble Taoist is honored. Let me propose a toast to all of you. Exalted immortal Qing Hua saluted the guests from all directions, and the guests immediately responded. The atmosphere in the heavenly capital Dao Plaza became even more lively. This time, Senior Qing Hua participated in the Feast of Peaches and was able to eat the 3,000-year-old peaches of immortality. Your cultivation base will definitely rise to another level. Junior offers a toast to Senior Qing Hua. A male heavenly immortal flattered loudly, and he was the first to finish the wine in his cup, causing the others to laugh loudly and chime in. Senior Qing Hua, I heard that the Feast of Peaches is only held once every 100,000 years. We don't have the fortune to participate in it. When you return, you must tell us about the Feast of Peaches so that we can broaden our horizons. A pretty female immortal said with a smile. Fellow Taoist Qing Hua, I heard that countless Daluo Jinxian will be present at the Feast of Peaches. Legend has it that a quasi-sage will also be present. Is this true? A golden immortal asked with a laugh. At the mention of a quasi-sage, the low-level immortals all looked solemn. Even exalted immortal Qing Hua hurriedly stood up and raised his cup to toast the heavens and earth. Only then did he turn to look at the guests from all directions. Fellow Taoist, you must be joking. A quasi-sage is revered by heaven and earth. Although the Feast of Peaches is a grand event of the 3 realms, Only the first Feast of Peaches had a quasi-sage present. After that, no quasi-sage has ever been present. Exalted Immortal Qing Hua said with a smile. Fellow Taoist Qing Hua is right. Even a Daoyuo Jingxian rarely shows himself, let alone a quasi-sage who is revered by heaven and earth. Perhaps only the Ginseng Fruit Festival, held by the ancestors of earthly immortals, can get a glimpse of a quasi-sage. An immortal said with a sigh. These immortals had low cultivation bases. Even immortals of the all-heaven realm were unimaginable to them, let alone Daoyuo Jingxian, a quasi-sage. At this moment, they were talking loudly, as if they had turned into saints who were passing judgment on the world. The Feast of Peaches? A murmur quietly sounded from a corner. Yi Xian, dressed in black, was sitting alone at a table. However, the immortals around him couldn't sense Yi Xian's presence at all. Interesting, very interesting. Yi Xian tapped the table with his fingers, and the corners of his mouth curved into a smile. When he opened and closed his eyes, a trace of coldness flashed across them. After Yi Xian came out of seclusion, he returned to the Dongsheng Divine Continent from the North Continent. Along the way, he was not only looking for his former subordinates, but also thinking about how to kill the Jade Emperor and take his position as Celestial Emperor. Coincidentally, when he came to the celestial capital, he received such a piece of news. This gave birth to an extremely interesting idea in his heart. The Feast of Peaches was held once every 100,000 years. The famous immortals of the three realms would gather in the 33rd Celestial Court. This was a great opportunity for Yi Xian. He could break through the clouds, suppress the immortals, kill the Jade Emperor, unify the three realms, and use his supreme cultivation to sweep across the world. With the help of the immortals of the Jie sect, he could completely establish his position as Celestial Emperor. The Feast of Peaches was his best opportunity to reorganize the Celestial Court and make the three realms respect each other. At this moment, Yi Xian's face showed a trace of a smile amidst the loud chatter of the guests from all directions. However, his smile was extremely strange, and it made people's hearts tremble. If the Feast of Peaches was held 3,000 years ago, Yi Xian would definitely not have such thoughts. This was because the immortals of the Daoyuo realm were gathered around. If he were to participate in this event, it would be no different from courting death. However, today, 3,000 years later, Yi Xian had great confidence. He even had the confidence to sweep across all his enemies. This was because he had stepped into the Daoyuo realm and was no longer the weak person he used to be. Even if he were to face the Jade Emperor, the Lord of the Three Realms, he had great confidence that he could kill him. Yi Xian was not arrogant. He also knew that the Jade Emperor's cultivation was unfathomable. He should be in the second watershed of the Daoyuo realm. However, Yi Xian cultivated the Dao through strength. Although he was only in the first heaven of the Daoyuo realm, his combat strength was not inferior to the Jade Emperor's in the second watershed. He also had many trump cards in his hands. The Daoyuo immortal body and the indestructible primordial spirit were not as simple as 1 + 1. They allowed Yi Xian to cross the first watershed and fight with the people in the second watershed of the Daoyuo realm. And this was only Yi Xian's own cultivation. He still had a heaven-defying technique like the Tribulation Transcender Transformation, as well as the Heavenly Punishing Halberd and the Immortal Defying Diagram. Even if the Great Luo Heavenly Immortal joined hands to fight him, he still had the confidence to suppress all enemies. Sweeping across the world and being invincible was Yi Xian's confidence at this moment. Sigh. Suddenly, just as Yi Xian was immersed in his thoughts, a sigh came from among the guests. If we were to talk about the truly outstanding person in the three realms, it would be the East Pole Emperor from 3,000 years ago. If he was still alive, there would definitely be a place for him in the Feast of Peaches. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.